the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have the secret sails that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen strange sights, but the strangest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Laborde. I cremated Sam McGee. Now Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows, while he left his home in the south to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell, though he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner live in hell. On a Christmas day we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk of your cold through the Parker's fold, it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we closed and the lashes froze till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and our dogs were fed and the stars o'erhead were dancing heel and toe, he turned to me and cat says he, I'll cash in this trip I guess, and if I do I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request. Well, it seemed so low that I couldn't say no. Then he says with a sort of moan, it's a cursed cold and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet ain't being dead, it's my awful dread of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair you'll cremate my last remains. A pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail. And we started on at the streak of dawn, but God, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee. And before nightfall a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. Wasn't a breath in that land of death, then I hurried horror driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh and it seemed to say, you may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true and it's up to you to cremate those last remains. Now a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my heart how I curse that load. In the long, long night, by the lone firelight, while the huskies round in a ring howled out their woes to the homeless snows. Oh God, how I loathe the thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow. And on I went, though the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in. And I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and I hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Laborde, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice and I saw in a trice it was called the Alice May. And I looked at it and I thought a bit, and I looked at my frozen chum. Then here said I with a sudden cry, and the furnace roared. Such a blaze you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I made a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. And the heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why. And the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and they danced about. Here again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said I'll just take a peep inside. I guess he's cooked and it's time I looked, and the door I opened wide, and there sat Sam looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. And he wore a smile, you could see a mile, and he said, please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have the secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen strange sights, but the strangest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge. I cremated Sam McGee. The summer is past, but your days keep growing longer. There's no wind in your sails, but the storm's blowing stronger. Walking hard, standing tall, keeping your head up through it all. Fighting fires, spinning plates. Goodness, how did it get so late? Lay your head down and dream. Lay your head down and dream. Lay your head down and dream. Lay your head down and just let your mind flow downstream. Sprawled out in a moonbeam. Lay your head down and dream.
Joe Hills is filmed before a live streaming audience.
That's us. Howdy, y'all. Joe Hills here, recording as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee. And today, y'all are my live streaming audience. Welcome, everyone. We are just trying to get some more Birch in. This glitch is still working, so I've got to get my work done on that. Some unfortunate news. Badger Spanner's trip home ended up having a lot more flight delays and problems than expected. And while she was initially planning to call in and read the part of Lucy Westenra in Chapter 6 of Dracula with me tonight, she sends her regrets. She is catching up on rest. But I am very excited to continue with Dracula tonight, even if it's going to be solo. I know, I'm no Badger Spanner when it comes to reading Lucy Westenra, but hopefully she'll be joining us again in future readings. But yeah, just transatlantic travel can be a lot on anybody. I actually went out of my way to not put her being here on my tweet, on my pinned tweet a few weeks ago, because I was like, just in case something goes wrong, I don't want to be like, I don't want her to feel like she's really letting us down, because yeah, it's kind of one of those things, like with that sort of flight, that happens sometimes. Am I going to be able to do a Badger Spanner impersonation for Lucy Westenra? Maybe. We'll have to see. But yeah, she's not sick or anything. It was just a lot more demanding travel than was anticipated due to a bunch of delays and stuff like that. So, anyway. Sometimes that's how traveling is. Here is our plan for tonight. As you can see, I've got a lot of this knocked out, but it's not done. We don't have exactly enough birch to finish this whole thing. We have close to enough birch. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is while we read Dracula, I'm going to be planting and chopping down birch trees, because at this point I've already spent, oh boy, I spent several blocks of diamonds buying birch from other hermits, and I need to keep some of my diamonds in reserve for other materials. So we are just going to cross the finish line on this project by probably just farming the last few stacks of birch ourselves. But that's fine. You know, it's my project, my base. I should probably grow a little bit of the birch myself. I mean, technically I already did grow a little bit of it, but still. Yeah, we have used a lot of birch wood on this. And I didn't expect to find the glitch that we've got here, which would allow me to place this much birch this quickly. So in some ways, I'm ahead of schedule on the episode because we're going to be able to get more done this episode than I was thinking we would. But in other ways, it's kind of awkward because I'm like, oh man, I figured we would just, you know, do a bunch of... I figured we'd get one wall in for the episode, right? And I was like, so we definitely won't run out of birch to do one wall. So, yeah, so it's like I'm ahead in some ways and behind in others. Oh, dang it, that's right. That one isn't going to go right there. Hold on. So we're just going to bump our heads a little there and then continue. Whoops. I was not holding shift. That's why that failed. Dang it. I'm pretty consistently able to trigger the glitch now, just not perfect at it. Yay. Okay. So that's that one. 1, 2, 3. And then the last one would actually start there. So yeah, we made it. Let's get a rocket out here. Rocket out. So we have 1 stack and 11 surplus birch, which is not going to be enough for us to smooth out. You see how these ones are in 1 block steps, and that one hasn't been smoothed out yet? We're going to need more birch to lock that up. Also, ideally, the back wall of this needs birch, and we want to put in birch supports inside the cabinet that we're going to be able to mount equipment to. So, before we move on, I should probably mention that I'm down here in slot 9, putting the hot in the hot bar. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. As I start reading the book, we are probably not going to be... I'm not going to be able to acknowledge every tip in the middle of a sentence or whatever. It'll be kind of like at the natural breaks between paragraphs or between segments of the writing. So... yeah, let's just close out all the birch that we do have, because I'm still warming up my throat. I feel like, I feel like I haven't done much talking today, but that's not true. I did a stream earlier, and then I did a Pathfinder game. We did Pathfinder Bounty 4. With the Patreon. That was really fun. If y'all haven't tried these Pathfinder bounties, the idea is that they're one-shot adventures for new players and level 1 groups. This is not an advertisement. I am not getting paid to do this. I originally did not want to play Pathfinder with my Discord. My original plan was to play D&D. But the D&D one-shots were all 3 to 5 hours, whereas these one-shots were 1 to 1.5 hours. In practice, I found that the 5-hour D&D one-shots often run well over 5 hours, and the Pathfinder bounties that are supposed to be 90 minutes at most run about 2 hours if you have a group that's not rushing. And I don't want to rush my players. I like when everybody's hanging out and having fun. So, yeah. So I have been doing some talking today, but like after that kind of gave my voice a rest. I feel like I've gone too long. Okay. NJ and Ash both played in the game, and they both say they had a great time. Glad to hear it. Boris the Cat says, do you have any plan to texture the birch walls? So, Boris, you see how there's this gap here? So, the plywood that we're using for the sides of our pinball machine comes out to be 5 blocks thick at the scale we're operating at. So, the outside layer of the plywood would be painted. We'll have artwork on the side of the machine. I've got a mock-up of that is probably not going to be the final images that I use. We would do like a pixel art version of something along these lines, though. But the inside of the machine, though, is traditionally unpainted, just plywood, because it's where stuff gets bolted in, right? But here's the thing, is I am thinking of stenciling onto the side of the machine the name of the machine and something like, for testing purposes only, please shake vigorously. Prototype 1, for testing purposes only, do not ship, please shake vigorously, that sort of thing. But yeah, so as you see, we got a cutout here for where our coin door is going to be. So the interior wood is going to be a few blocks away from the exterior, where everything's mounted, and where the paint layer is. Am I going to make the art on the side 3D? That was not my original plan, but I've been considering ways to do that. It's definitely less realistic than on a real pinball machine, because on a real pinball machine, they can't compromise the structural integrity by digging into it. But so that's kind of a fun to have thing. That might be the sort of thing we do as a refinement pass. Once we get maybe we do the rough art in place, and then if the season lasts 2 weeks longer than we thought it would be, we would come back and make it 3D-ish. But I don't want to make that a core part of the roadmap. I've kind of got a list of nice-to-have stuff I've been adding for. What if, we're waiting on an update from Microsoft and the season runs 3 weeks longer? Okay, what are the cool tweaks I can make at that point? Okay. Lakshmi13 says that her husband has played those Pathfinder bounties and enjoyed them as well. Awesome. Yeah, so it's clearly not just me being a good dungeon master. I found them really easy to work with, too, on the whole. Once again, not an advertisement, just something I did earlier today, because I want to get better at improvising. It might come up later. Okay, so... Welcome, Corky. Whoops, didn't engage the rocket there. Private Gavin says, who's your favorite hermit? Me! So, yeah. Let's see. We've got our lounging axolotl here. I wonder if we've made any sales. Probably not, but might be worth checking on. Looks like nobody else has really been building anything along here yet. Oh, wait. Except for this huge thing. We're not going to go look at that too closely because of spoilers, but I am excited about it. I'm hoping that having a neighbor near here will... Oh, I forgot to take down this reopening soon. Whoops. I should say now open. Venture. There we go. Graysky says, I didn't realize how close your base is to the shopping district. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I wanted to put the shop here too, just to make sure that nobody else built anything too close to me that was like super ugly or something. Only I get to build things that are super ugly. Haha. But yeah, I wanted to pull the focus of the shopping district broader, right? We got plenty of places in here for people to do stuff. But this is going to kind of help open up, like, people might want to build stuff over here, over there. And then, granted, eventually somebody will start digging or working their way out here. And by then, we should be in much better shape with all this. Hey, happy birthday to Maddie Games. Feliz cumpleaños a ti. Feliz cumpleaños a ti. Feliz cumpleaños a Maddie Games. Feliz cumpleaños a ti. Y muchas más. Okay, so we got something pretty decent put together here. We've been... I need to sort out my brain. I'm like really mentally all over the place. We probably don't want to do inventory management stuff before Dracula. I think the best thing that we can do is start Dracula. I wanted to grab a bunch of empty to-go boxes though, so that I would have them for grabbing wood as we go. Okay. And we'll grab... I don't think that we're likely to need... let me fix my controls here. Whoops. Controls... Keybinds... Left button, right button. Okay, cool. Okay, let's... Wait, I've got 14 ink sacs somewhere. We're gonna need the ink sacs for doing the writing thing. Okay. Hey, welcome Stephanie Hall. Glad you could join us. Okay. Okay. I'm just done. I'm just done. I'm just done. Somebody comes in here and is like, who's your favorite hermit? And then immediately, what's your favorite pizza topping? Like, we're reading Dracula? Like, why is that an appropriate thing? Like, don't just show up in people's streams and start asking a bunch of random questions. Like, we're doing a thing here. Like, people arguing about pizza toppings is stupidly passé, and it's the sort of thing that trolls come in and try and start fights about. It's like... Nope. My favorite pizza topping is banning people who waste my time. It's delicious. Transit Biker says, what's your favorite cinematic rendition of Dracula? I really like the Francis Ford Coppola one with Keanu Reeves in it. There's there's a lot of interesting cinematographical choices. Would it be cinematic choices? They except for the blue flames, they tried to do everything in like with miniatures and models and with puppets and with scaling stuff, and like they tried to do as many effects and things like that in camera as possible. And it's a really visually interesting movie. Cinematic choices. Keanu Reeves is not the best Jonathan Harker ever, but honestly, Keanu Reeves is such an endearing person. Like, I'm fine with the idea that, like, we decided to make a Dracula and do all the cool special effects in camera, and also we got Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is here, and Keanu Reeves is like, hi. Hi. Yeah, so, like, it's a really cool version of Dracula that has a lot of interesting choices made, and even if not all of them paid off, It's cool. It's worthwhile. It's a good watch. Okay, so I think we're ready to read from Chapter 6 of Dracula's journal. Here is the link to that. Dracula's journal. Mina Murray's journal. Oh my gosh. Like 90% of my days recently is me trying to do something and going, wow, I'm more tired than I thought. So I'm sorry if I keep going, wow, I'm more tired than I thought, but I keep being surprised. Like, yeah, this is not Dracula's journal. This is the novel Dracula by Bram Stoker. Chapter 6 opens with Mina Murray's journal. Mina Murray, of course, the fiancée of Jonathan Harker, who wrote the first 4 chapters as his own journal entries. Chapter 5 last week, this is your recap. A lot of people go, Joe, are you going to do a recap? Right after I did the recap. And I'm like, the part where I just described chapters 1 through 4 and then chapter 5, that's the recap. That was it. Okay. Chapters 1 through 4. Jonathan Harker. He is a solicitor who works for a realtor. A realtor is somebody who buys and sells real estate. He travels by train to Transylvania to meet this eccentric nobleman, Count Dracula, and hook him up with a purchase of a property in London. So, he is left for dead as Dracula departs for London himself at the end of Chapter 4. Chapter 5 is a series of letters and diary entries and things like that between the people that Jonathan Harker left behind and their the people that they're close to, with the idea being that Jonathan realizes at the end of Chapter 4 that he's in giant amounts of danger, but also that he has unwittingly facilitated this monster making his way to London, where all the people he cares about live. So we are switching point of view. We saw Harker and Dracula interact. We know that Dracula is no good. Chapter 5 is just all about the setup for what things are going on in London while Harker's gone. And most interestingly, Lucy Westenra was one of the main folksy of Chapter 5, because she had 3 interesting men propose to her, one of whom is like a wealthy American cowboy type thing. I don't know if he's actually like an oil man or if his family just owns like a giant cattle ranch or something, but he's like Texan, and he's in England on business and met her and proposed to her. There's another guy, Dr. Sword, who owns a lunatic asylum, and Dr. Sword's letters were, or Dr. Sword's parts of the journal were recorded on a phonograph. So he's recording on wax cylinders his patient notes because he's that wealthy. Like, at the time this was written, like, that guy, a very big deal financially. And then finally, there's a third guy that proposed, and Lucy didn't really share any details about him yet, just saying that, and of course the one I really wanted proposed to. So we'll learn a little bit more about the man that Lucy said yes to in Chapter 6. Neo Nawavern 01 says, have we started yet? I'm doing the recap. I'm recapitulating chapters 1 through 5. So we are starting on Chapter 6. Streaming. Do not disturb. Because I'm reading Dracula. You hear that, Jev? Dracula. Okay. Oh, for the people who have not seen me read Dracula before, we're going to do some of this with voices. Actually, we're going to do all of this with voices. I'm gonna read the book, the narration. Well, actually, so the narration for Jonathan Harker's journal, I was using my far too serious voice. But for Mina Murray's journal, I'm going to be using a regional accent that some of my family from New Jersey have. For Lucy Westenra, Badger Spanner sends her regrets that her journey was more tiresome than anticipated, and so unfortunately she's not joining us via Discord tonight, but hopes to rejoin us in the future. For Lucy Westenra, I will try to do a posh British lady voice. I can't promise it's going to be good because I didn't know until Badger was really hoping until the last minute that she could make it. She's resting now, but yeah, she sends her regrets. But yeah, just it took a lot more out of her getting back across the Atlantic than expected, which is completely fair. It is a long trip, and I appreciate that she traveled so far to come visit. Okay, so here we go. Chapter 6, Mina Murray's Journal. Okay, I gotta kind of warm up. Hold on. Sorry, I'm like clearing my throat and coughing, so I'm muting for a second. July 24th, Whitby. Lucy met me at the station, looking sweeter and lovelier than ever, and we drove up to the house at the Crescent in which they have rooms. This is a lovely place. The little river, the Esk, runs through a deep valley, which broadens out as it comes near the harbor. A great viaduct runs across, with high piers, through which the view seems somehow further away than it really is. The valley is beautifully green, and it is so steep that when you are on the high land on either side, you look right across it, unless you are near enough to see down. The houses of the old town, the side away from us, are all red-roofed, and seem piled up one over the other anyhow. Like the pictures that we see of Nuremberg. Just an author's note, Nuremberg didn't have the same negative connotations back then. This is not a reference to World War II. This book predates World War II. It's like, oh, isn't Nuremberg quaint? Back then wouldn't have been sarcasm. Wouldn't have been sarcasm back then. But like, I'm reading it now and it's just like, oof. Cringe. Okay, sorry, this is a very old story, and there's gonna be weird stuff in there that's like, what? Why would someone write that? Did Joe put that in there? Like, okay, no, that's straight up in the book. Okay, moving on. Right over the town is the ruin of Whitby Abbey, which was sacked by the Danes, and which is the scene of Patamamion, where the girl was built up in the wall. It is a most noble ruin, of immense size, and full of beautiful and romantic bits. There's a legend that a white lady is seen in one of the windows. Between it and the town, there is another church, the parish one, round, which is a big graveyard, all full of tombstones. This is, to my mind, the nicest spot in Whitby, for it lies right over the town, and has a full view of the harbor, and all up the bay where the headland called Kettleness stretches out into the sea. It descends so steeply over the harbor that part of the bank has fallen away. And some of the graves have been destroyed. In one place, part of the stonework of the grave stretches out over the sandy pathway far below. There are walks with seats beside them, through the churchyard, and people go and they sit there all day long, looking at the beautiful view and enjoying the breeze. I shall come here and sit very often myself and work. Indeed, I'm writing now, with my book on my knee, listening to the talk of 3 old men who are sitting beside me. They seem to do nothing all day, but sit up here and talk. Okay, let's scroll down a bit. Just as a quick reminder, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. I am currently putting the hot in the hot bar, and we are 17 away from our first face camera expansion. Wait, what is this? Okay. I don't understand this person. Yeah, I don't know what this person's on about. Okay. Sorry, there's a wildly off-topic conversation going on in Twitch. Not in like a helpful, fun way, but somebody's just like, let me come in here and talk about something that Joe doesn't know about, but which will upset everyone. Like, look, I have no problem talking about current events or things that are going on that I'm familiar with, but like, if you're interrupting while I'm in the middle of reading Dracula, like talking about depressing stuff, like that's not helpful. This is not that. Like, read the room. We're reading a book about a monster who travels from one continent to a nearby island with intention to murder people and create more monsters, not to talk about your depressing thing. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm too tired. I'm too tired to not just ban you if you're gonna be doing weird off-topic stuff, right? Like this is not like my default when I'm this tired is not mercy. It's I need to save my energy so you're gone. I don't even know. I don't like that person seemed to be posting something from like the middle of a conversation they were in, but like I couldn't find the rest of the conversation. So yeah, okay. It's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's cool when you're part of a team. We should probably be replanting some of the birch saplings though as we go. So here we are, putting the birch logs in there. Because we're clearly going to get 5 shulkers worth of birch for this. Fatima Texas Bat says, first time tuning into one of these Dracula streams, and to be honest, the voice acting 10 out of 10. Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep going. The harbor lies below me, with on the far side one long granite wall stretching out into the sea with a curve outwards at the end of it, in the middle of which a lighthouse. A heavy seawall runs along outside it, and on the near side the seawall makes an elbow, crooked inversely, and its end to a lighthouse. Between the two piers there's a narrow opening into the harbor, which then suddenly widens. Bam. It is nice at high water, but when the tide is out, it shoals away to nothing, and there is merely the stream of the Esk running between banks of sand with rocks here and there. Outside the harbor on this side, there rises for a half-mile a great reef, the sharp edge of which runs straight out south from below the south lighthouse. At the end of it is a buoy with a bell, which swings in bad weather and sends in a mournful sound on the wind. They have a legend here that when a ship is lost, bells are heard out at sea. I must ask the old man about this. He is coming this way. He is a funny old man. He must be awfully old, for his face is all gnarled and twisted like the bark of a tree. He tells me that he is nearly 100, and that he was a sailor in the Greenland fishing fleet when Waterloo was fought. He is, I am afraid, a very skeptical person, for when I asked him about the bells at sea and the White Lady at the Abbey, he said very brusquely, I wouldn't fast master about them, miss. Them things be all wore out. Mind, I don't say that they never was, but I do say they wasn't in my time. They be all very well for comers and trippers and the like, but not for a nice young lady like you. Them fleet folks from York and Leeds, they always be eating curled herrings and drinking tea and looking out to buy cheap jet wood creed aught. I wonder, measle, who would be bothered telling lies to them, even the papers, which is full of fool talk. I thought he would be a good person to learn interesting things from. So I asked him if he would mind telling me about something about the whale fishing from his old days. He was just setting himself to begin when the clock struck 6, whereupon he labored to get up and said, I must gang again we're through, meow. My granddaughter don't like to be kept waiting when the tea's ready, for it takes time to camel out the grease, and there be many of 'em miss I lack belly timber sairly by the clock. He hobbled away, and I could see him hurrying, as well he could, down the steps. The steps are a great feature of the place. They lead from the town up to the church, and there are hundreds of them. I do not know how many, and they wind up in a delicate curve. The slope is so gentle that a horse could easily walk up and down them. I think they must originally have had something to do with the Abbey. I shall go home too. Lucy went out visiting with her mother, and they were only duty calls. I didn't go. They'll be home by this. The 1st of August. I'm like the accent is drifting into the mid-Atlantic and up to Boston and back. And I'm sorry, this is not an accent that I've practiced a lot, which is part of the reason to do it. Like, I'm trying to remember how my dad used to get made fun of by his sisters. Like, they'd be like, oh, come on, Joseph. You know that Dad never was going to let anybody else touch that car. When we were babies, Mama just had to take care of us if Dad didn't get out of bed for nothing. But he loved you. He would come and get you out of bed and get a bottle for you. He never took any of the other babies out of bed with a bottle. It's not fair. That sort of thing. Like, am I actually reading and playing Minecraft at the same time? I'm doing one of the easiest tasks in Minecraft. You know, I'm also continuously reading and playing Minecraft when I'm reading the chat and playing Minecraft, right? Like, I'm continuously reading things aloud from the chat, Lauren Wyatt, while playing Minecraft. Rotation says howdy. Howdy! Welcome, Sapphire Smith and Danny as well. So, okay. Glad y'all are here. Yeah, other people are playing Minecraft and listening. I don't see why I can't be playing Minecraft and reading. Okay. It is kind of hard to maintain where I am on the lines, and I do occasionally get lost, but the more I practice it, the better I'm getting at it. Yeah, there are 3 chats to read, too. So, welcome, Pa Body. Glad you could join us. We are reading Dracula Chapter 6. Quick reminder, once again, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat, and we are 17 away from our next face camera expansion, which is also our first face camera expansion. The 1st of August. I came up here an hour ago with Lucy, and we had a most interesting talk with my old friend and the 2 others who always come and join him. He is evidently the Sir Oracle of them, and I should think must have been, in his time, a most dictatorial person. He will not admit anything and down faces everybody. If he can't out-argue them, he bullies them, and then takes their silence for agreement with his views. Lucy was looking sweetly pretty in her white lawn frock. She has got a beautiful color since she's been here. I noticed that the old men did not lose any time in coming up and sitting near her when they sit down. Oof. She is so sweet with the old people. I think they all fall in love with her on the spot. Even my old man succumbed and did not contradict her, but gave me double share instead. I got him on the subject of the legends, and he went off at once, into some sort of sermon. I must remember and try and put it down. It be all full talk, lock, stock, and barrel. That's what it be, ain't nothing else of bynes and was and bogos and bargets and bogles and ain't then only fit to sit to bairns and dizzy women at buildering. They ain't be naught but air blurbs. They all grims and signs and warnings be all invented by parsons and ilsome book bodies and railroad touters to skeer and gunner haffins and to get folks to do something that they wouldn't otherwise inclined to. It makes me ireful to think of them. Why, it's them that, not content with printing lies on paper and preaching them out of pulpits, does want to be cutting them up on the tombstones. You look around here, all the stains, holding up their heads, so they can let out of their pride and arrogant, simply tumbling down with the weight of lies are all written on. Here lies the body of our sacred to the memory wrote on all of them. Yeah, half nigh of them ain't been nobodies at all. Ain't no memories have been carried off at a pitch snuff. Nothing still sacred. Lies all of them, nothing but lies of one kind or another. My God. The choir squared them into day of judgment when they come tumbling up in their death sacks, all juped together, trying to drag their tombstones with them to prove how good they was. Some of them trimming and dithering with their hands and their dozens and slipping the line into the sea. Can't even keep a group of them. I could see from the old fella's self-satisfied air, the way that he looked round for the approval of his cronies, he was showing off. And so I put in a word to keep him going. Oh, Mr. Swales, you can't be serious. Surely these tombstones are not all wrong. You haven't. They be a poor few not wrong saying they're making out people too good, or there be folk who think a bomb bowl like to see if it only be their own, the whole thing be only lies. Now you look here. You come here a stranger and you see this Kirk Garth. I nodded, for I thought it was better to assent, though I do not quite understand his dialect. I knew it had something to do with the church. He went on. And you can't state the Holsteins a boon folk that happen here snod and snog. I assented again. Then just be to come lie, comes in with scores he lay bed on, done baka box on Friday night. He nudged one of his companions, and they all laughed. And my God, how could they be otherwise? Look at that one, best of beer bank, and read it. So I went over and I read, Edward Spenceley, master mariner, murdered by pirates off the coast of Andres, April 1854, age 30. When I came back, Mr. Swales went on, who brought him home? I wonder, happened here, murder off the coast of Andre, and you there's a body lay under. Well, I can name you a dozen whose bones lay in the Greenland seas above. He pointed northwards. Oh, yeah, where the currents may have drifted, they may be the steens about you. Yeah, you can with your young eyes. You read the small print of the lies down here. These be the steens around you can with your breath low. I knew his father lost in the Lively off Greenland in 20. Or Andrew Woodhouse, drowned in the same sea in 1777. Or John Paxton, drowned off at Cape Farrell a year later. Or old John Rollins, whose grandfather sailed with me, drowned in the Gulf of Finland in 50. You think all these men will make a rush to Whitby and the trumpet sounds? I had me anthems about it. I'll tell you, when they got here, they'd be jostling and jostling one another. It'd be like a fight up in the ice in the old days when we'd be at one or another daylight dusk, all trying to tie up by the cuts of the light of the aurora borealis. This was evidently local. It's hard for me to jump between these two accents. Sorry. This was evidently local pleasantry. Oh my gosh. Yeah, these are hard voices to switch between. These were evidently, that's too far north. That's Boston again. Dang it. This is why I'm doing this. It's practice. Thank you for witnessing the practice failures. I need like a catchphrase with this accent to get back into it. Like with the Scottish accent, I would yell, curse me kilts. But like this one, I don't really have anything. Oh, come on, Joseph. I'm thinking about the way my aunts would bother my dad. Oh, come on, Joseph. Like, this was evidently local pleasantry, for the old man cackled over it, and his cronies joined with gusto. But, I said, surely you are not quite correct, for you start on the assumption that all the poor people or their spirits will take to their tombstones with them on the day of judgment. Do you think this will really be necessary? Well, what else are the tombstones for? Answer me that, miss. To please their relatives, I suppose. To please their relatives, you suppose, he said with intense... This, he said with intense scorn. How will it please their relatives to know what lies... How will... Oh, my gosh. No. How will it pleasure... That's an even more nasal Boston. That's even further away. Boy, okay. How will it pleasure them? No. What's something I say? Okay, so I need to get back into the Styx accent. That's more like... I'm doing it too nasal. Why am I doing that? Okay. How will it pleasure their relatives know that lies right to them? Everybody in the place knows what they be lies. He pointed to a stone at our feet, which had been laid down as a slab, on which the seat was rested close to the edge of the cliff. Reading lies on them thrusting letters are up, he said. The letters were... dang it. The letters were upside down to me from where I sat, but Lucy was more opposite to them. So she leaned over and said, I haven't actually practiced the Lucy voice yet. Wow, okay. It's like the very posh, obnoxious British voice. Sacred to the memory of George Cannon, who died in the hope of a glorious resurrection on July 29th, 1873, falling from the rocks at Kettleness. This tomb was erected by his sorrowing mother for her dearly beloved son. He was the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. Really, Mr. Sales, I don't see anything funny in that. She spoke a comment very gravely and somewhat severely. You ain't see anything funny, ha ha ha. That's because you ain't got a sorrowing mother, and Hellcat hated him because he was a regular lamenter who wasn't. He hated her so much he committed suicide in order that she might not get an insurance and put on his life. He blew nine top off his off with an old musket that they had down for scaring the crows with. Torrent for crows then, for it brought the clegs and doups to him. This is the way they say he fell off the rocks as to a hope of a glorious resurrection. I've often heard say myself that he'd hope he'd go to hell because his mother was so pious he was sure she'd go to heaven, and he didn't want to addle where she was. Now I think that's seen at any rate. He hammered with his stick as he spoke. A pack of lies that don't make Gabriel kickle, and Geordie comes up panting up the grease with a tombstone bounced on his hump. I asked if he took his evidence. I did not know what to say, but Lucy turned the conversation, and she said, rising up, "Oh, why did you tell us of this? It is my favorite seat, and I cannot leave it, and now I find I must go on sitting over the grave of a suicide." It won't harm you any, my pretty. George Gladstone, I have so tremble sitting on his lap. It won't harm you. Why, I've been sitting on here on and off for 20 years past. It don't mean no harm. Don't get fash about them lies under you, and don't lie there either. It's be time for getting scarred when you see the tombstones they all ran away with. Place of Bear Stonefield. That's the clock. I must be going. Service to you, ladies. And off he hobbled. Lucy and I sat a while, and it was all so beautiful before us that we took hands as we sat, and she told me all over again about Arthur and their upcoming marriage. That made me just a little heartsick. I haven't heard from Jonathan for a whole month. The same day, I came up here alone, for I am very sad. There's no letter for me. I hope there cannot be anything the matter with Jonathan. The clock has just struck 9. I see the lights scattered all over the town, sometimes in rows where the streets are, sometimes singly. They must run right up the Esk and die in the curve of the valley. To my left, the view is cut off by a black line of roof from an old house next to the Abbey. The sheep and the lambs are bleating in the fields away behind me. And there's a clatter of a donkey's hooves up the paved road below. The band on the pier is playing a harsh waltz in good time. And further along the quay, there's a Salvation Army meeting in a back street. Neither of the bands hears the other. But up here, I hear and see them both. Dang it, I'm drifting the accents. I wonder where Jonathan is. Dang it. I wonder where Jonathan is, and if he is thinking of me. I wish he were here. Yeah, the Quay, Wife Tonic 99, the Quay. It's spelled Quebec, Uniform, Alpha, Yankee, Quay. Is the chat frozen, says Danny W. No, just nobody's talking. Hopefully it's because they have already left because they hated these accents and I'm failing terribly. Okay, so we're going to move on. We got Dr. Sword's diary. Dr. Sword. Okay. Does anybody remember last week what voice I did for Dr. Sword? I don't remember. I should have written that down. No. It's like, no, it's Quay, like the Florida Quays. Jimmy Buffett's always on about. Quick reminder, we are 17 away from our first face camera expansion. This is a viewer-supported stream. Well, actually, it's not because no one's tipped yet, but it's an optimistically framed as a viewer-supported stream. Feel free to tip. The only $3 tip that came in was from the stream earlier today. So we are 17 away from our first face camera expansion. Nobody seems to remember what voice I used for Dr. Sword, it seems. Okay. I think I did I do a Mid-Atlantic? Was it the nasal, like, previously on The Legend of Korra? Asami and Manu, is it not Manu? Manu runs Mystery Pinball Theater 3000. Yeah, Badger really stole the show last week. I'm just gonna go with the Mid-Atlantic. I think that's so. Dr. Sword's Diary, 5th of June. The case of Renfield grows more interesting the more I get to understand the man. He has certain qualities very largely developed. Selfishness, secrecy, and purpose. I wish I could get at what is the object of the latter. He seems to have some settled scheme of his own, but what it is I do not yet know. His redeeming quality is a love of animals, though. Indeed, he has such curious turns in it. I sometimes imagine he is only abnormally cruel. His pets are of odd sorts. Just now, his hobby is catching flies. He has at present such a quantity that I have had myself to expostulate. To my astonishment, he did not break out into a fury as I expected, but took the matter in simple seriousness. He thought for a moment and then said, "May I have 3 days? I shall then clear them away." Oh, wait, no, but Renfield. We don't have a separate voice for Renfield. Renfield, for Renfield, let's maybe give him the, let's maybe do the Wazowski. What's that, We'll do the Wazowski voice for Renfield. No, we can't do a Rendog accent, because I can't do it. May I have 3 days? I shall clear them away. Of course, I said that would do. I must watch him. 13 days later, the 18th of June. He has turned his mind now to spiders, and got several very big fellas in a box. He keeps feeding them with his flies, and the number of the latter is becoming sensibly diminished, although he has used half his food in attracting more flies from outside his room. 1st July. His spiders are now becoming as great a nuisance as his flies, and today I told them that he must get rid of them. He looked very sad at this, and so I said he must clear out some of them at all events. He cheerfully acquiesced in this, and I gave him the same time as before for reduction. He disgusted me much while with him, for when a horrid blowfly, bloated with some carrion food, buzzed into the room, he caught it, held it exultantly for a few moments between his finger and thumb, and before I knew what he was going to do, put it in his mouth and ate it. I scolded him for it, but he argued quietly it was very good and very wholesome, that it was life, strong life, and gave life to him. This gave me an idea, or the rudiment of one. I must watch how he gets rid of his spiders. He has evidently some deep problem in his mind, for he keeps a little notebook in which he is always jotting down something. Whole pages of it are filled with masses of figures, generally single numbers added up in batches, and when the totals added in batches again, as though he were focusing some account, as the auditors put it. 1 week later, the 8th of July. There is a method in his madness, and the rudimentary idea in my mind is growing. It will be a whole idea soon. And then, oh, unconscious celebration. You will have to give the wall to your conscious brother. I kept away from my friend for a few days so that I might notice if there was any change. Things remained as they were, except that he has parted with some of his pets and got a new one. He has managed to get a sparrow and has already partially tamed it. His means of taming is simple, for already the spiders are diminished. Those that do remain, however, are well fled, for he still brings in the flies by tempting them with his food. 19th July. We are progressing. My friend has now a whole colony of sparrows, and his flies and spiders are almost obliterated. When I came in, he ran to me and said he wanted to ask me a great favor, a very, very great favor. And as he spoke, he fawned on me like a dog. I asked him what it was that he requested, and he said, with a sort of rapture in his voice and his bearing, "A kitten. A nice, little, sleek, playful kitten that I can play with and teach and feed and feed and feed." I was not unprepared for this request, for I had noticed how his pets went on increasing in size and vivacity. But I did not care that his pretty family of tame sparrows should be wiped out in the same manner as the flies and the spiders. So I said I would see about it, and asked him if he would not rather have a cat than a kitten. His eagerness betrayed him as he answered, "Oh yeah, I would like a cat. I only asked for a kitten lest you should refuse me a cat. No one would refuse me a kitten, would they?" I shook my head and said at present I feared it would not be possible, but that I would see about it. His face fell, and I could see a warning of danger in it, for there was a sudden, fierce, sidelong look, which meant killing. The man is an underdeveloped homicidal maniac. I shall test him with his present craving and see how it works out. Then I shall know more. Milky Snowman, thank you for tipping 20. That's going to get us 3 past our first face camera expansion milestone. Milky Snowman writes, "Let's get these face camera expansions going." Well, thank you. So here we go. Please direct your attention down to slot 9, where I've been putting the hot in the hot bar. Howdy, y'all. Grow Hills here, expanding as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee. Dee-da-dee-da-dee. Also, yeah, if you haven't read Dracula before, it's got some disturbing horror parts in it, like the parts that we're at now. Hey, and we got some tips rolling in as well from Lauren for 15, who yells, "Accents!" Woo! So thank you, Lauren. That's going to get us 2 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Stephanie Hall, boom, tipping 17. That's going to get us 15 past the next milestone, who says, "Time to expand Joe and get Dracula out of the hot bar. Enjoying the reading." Thank you so much. So here we go. Please direct your attention down here to the lower left. Expand. Alrighty. So thank you very much, Stephanie Hall, for putting us over the edge there. And then we are now 5 away from the next expansion before David rolls in, tipping 7. Whew, that's going to get us 2 past the next milestone, who says, "These accents are very immersive." Thank you. I feel like I was kind of hitting a wall with some. I need to practice this more. Like, that's part of why we're doing this, though, is for the practice. So anyway, here we go. Expand. Like, so the Mid-Atlantic accent, is one I've been practicing for years, but the Jersey one is not one that I've used very much. Okay, so that puts us 18 away from the next expansion. And tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Minecraft Mando says, "The game thinks you're clicking 20 to 30 times a second. It has nothing to do with the mouse angle." Okay, the thing is, though, like, well, dang it, we're out of places to place these. That's not going to be a problem. Okay, the thing is, though, that if I just press the 2 buttons and don't do the mouse angle, right? You're kidding. Do I have a way to get down? I guess, oh, it's an ocean I can jump. No, if you don't do the mouse angle, it goes the same speed as it would go with it set to the mouse. Like, binding it to the keyboard alone doesn't get you the speed. You have to do both. And like, if you watch my video, at the beginning of it, I'm doing it without the mouse angle, I think. Did I include that in the video? I think I did. I'm really tired. Okay. I don't remember planting those melons there. Okay. But yeah, if you don't get the mouse angle right, it doesn't do the speed. Like, just binding the keys alone is insufficient. I spent like an hour trying different combinations to make it work. People are saying in 112 it works without the angle as long as you use A and D rather than W and S. Well, the thing is that for the Swift Sneak to kick in the way you need it to, you have to get the angle right. Because this is a Swift Sneak. So this, we also tested it without the Swift Sneak, right? So if I just put in 3 blocks here, now we got to rebind the keys. Oh my gosh. Controls, keybinds. This is the only time I'm doing this tonight. Okay. So if I just go to the end here and I hit the place block button and the strafe button. Dang it, I got it that time. How come I got it that time, but not like 800 other? Oh, dang it. Why did this take me an hour to get right? Okay, so if we go all the way out, yeah. See, if we go all the way out, which is what I just did there. See how it's going da 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 da. You can't consistently get it to be fast unless you get the mouse angle right. Is, I guess, the way to put it. Sometimes you still get it fast without it. But the angle is important to making the Swift Sneak enhancement. You need your speed. Like, you need to be a certain distance from the edge of the block or something and have the angle something with the mouse to get it to work. How do I feel about fan arts? Asks Paw Buddy. I feel nothing. I'm completely dead inside. Like Renfield. No, I'm not. But we are reading Dracula, so we're not here to talk about happy things. Okay, so the same day, on the 19th of July, at 10 p.m., Dr. Sword's journal continues. "10 p.m. I have visited him again and found him sitting in a corner, brooding." No, that's way too more. That's more Boston than Mid-Atlantic. "Previously on Avatar: The Last Airbender, I have visited him again and found him sitting in a corner brooding. When I came in, you know, we'll just do the Boston accent. Fine, it's fine. A lot of doctors in Boston. When I came in, he threw himself on his knees before me and implored me to let him have a cat, that his salvation depended upon it. I was firm, however, and told him he could not have it, whereupon he went, without a word, and sat down, gnawing his fingers, in the corner where I had found him. I shall see him in the morning early. 20th July. Visited Renfield very early, before the attendant went about his rounds. Found him up and humming a tune. Was spreading out his sugar, which he had saved, in the window, and was manifestly beginning his fly catching again, and beginning it cheerfully, and with good grace. I looked around for his birds, and not seeing them, asked where they were. He replied, without turning round, that they had all flown away. There were a few feathers about the room, and upon his pillow a drop of blood. I said nothing, but did tell the keeper to report to me if there were anything odd about him during the day. Sophia Light says, I'm assuming Dr. Sword is one of Mina's other suitors. Not Mina's, but Lucy's. He's one of the 3 men who proposed to Lucy. And Lucy told Mina that if Mina were not already engaged to Jonathan, that Dr. Sword is very wealthy and brilliant and would have made a great companion for her. But yeah. So the asylum guy is connected to Lucy and Mina because he knows Lucy's family and proposed to Lucy. We're on chapter 6, Ezra Manning. Okay. 11 a.m. The attendant has just been to me to say that Renfield has been very sick and has disgorged a whole lot of feathers. My belief is, Doctor, he's eating his birds. He just took them and ate them raw. 11 p.m. I gave Renfield a strong opiate tonight, enough to make even him sleep, and took away his pocketbook to look at it. The thought that has been buzzing about in my brain lately is complete, and the theory proved. My homicidal maniac is of a peculiar kind. I shall have to invent a new classification for him, and call him a zoophagous, life-eating maniac. What he desires is to absorb as many lives as he can, and he has laid himself out to achieve it in a cumulative way. He gave many flies to one spider and many spiders to one bird, and then wanted a cat to eat the many birds. What then would have been his later steps? It would almost be worthwhile to complete the experiment. It might be done, if only there were a sufficient cause. Men sneered at vivisection, and yet look at its results today. Why not advance science in its most difficult and vital aspect? The knowledge of the brain. Had I even the secret of one such mind? Did I hold the key to the fancy of even one lunatic? I might advance my own branch of science to a pitch compared with which Burden Sander, not Brandon Sanderson, Burden Sander. There's a guy in here named Burden Sanderson. What? How is there a guy in here named Burden Sanderson and I didn't know? I feel like I would have remembered that. Burden Sanderson. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, I'm regaining my composure here. Okay. I might advance my own branch of science to a pitch compared with which Bird and Sanderson's physiology or Ferrier's brain knowledge would be as nothing, if only there were a sufficient cause. I must not think too much of this, or I may be tempted. A good cause might turn the scale with me, for may I not too be of an exceptional brain, congenitally? How well the man reasoned. Lunatics always do well within their scope. I wonder at how many lives he values a man, or if at only one. He has closed the account most accurately, and today began a new record. How many of us begin a new record with each day of our lives? To me, it seems only yesterday that my whole life ended with my new hope, and that truly I began a new record. So it will be until the great recorder sums me up and closes my ledger account with a balance to profit or loss. Oh, Lucy, I cannot be angry with you, nor can I be angry with my friend whose happiness is yours. But I must wait only on hopeless and work. If only I could have as strong a cause as my poor mad friend there. A good, unselfish cause to make me work. That would indeed be happiness. Okay, and that concludes Dr. Sword's journal. We're going to be returning to Mina Murray's journal. So Dr. Sword's journal here concluded on the 20th of July. Hey, that was my birthday last week, or 2 weeks ago now. I don't know how calendars work. I'm too tired to work a calendar. Let's go ahead and just plant some more of these just throughout here. Mina Murray's journal. Mina Murray. It's a Mina Murray journal. I can't do it. Oh. 26th July. I am anxious, and it soothes me to express myself here. It is like whispering to oneself and listening at the same time. And there is also something about the shorthand symbols that makes it different from writing. I am unhappy about Lucy and about Jonathan. I had not heard from Jonathan for some time and was very concerned, but yesterday, dear Mr. Hawkins, who is always so kind, sent me a letter from him. I had written asking him if he had heard, and he said that the enclosed had just been received. It was only a line dated from Castle Dracula, and it says he is just starting for home. This is not like my Jonathan, and I do not understand it, and it makes me uneasy. Then, too, Lucy, although she is so well, has lately taken to her old habit of walking in her sleep. Her mother has spoken to me about it, and we have decided that I am to lock the door of our room every night. Mrs. Westenra has got the idea that sleepwalkers always go out on roofs of houses and along edges of cliffs, and then they get suddenly wakened and fall over with despairing cries that echo all over the place. Poor dear. She is naturally anxious about Lucy, and she tells me that her husband, Lucy's father, had the same habit, and that he would get up in the night and dress himself and go out, and if he were not stopped. Lucy. She's to be married in the autumn. She's already planning out her dresses and how her house is to be arranged. I sympathize with her. I do, for I do the same. Only Jonathan and I will start a life in a very simple way, and she'll have to try to make both ends meet. Mr. Holmwood, the Honorable Arthur Holmwood, only son of our Lord Godalming, is coming up here very shortly, as soon as he can leave town, for his father is not well. I think dear Lucy is counting the moments till he comes. She wants to take him up to the seat on the churchyard cliff and show him the beauty of Whitby. I dare say it's the waiting which disturbs her. But she'll be all right when he arrives. 27th July. No news from Jonathan. I'm getting quite uneasy about him. Why, I don't know. But I wish he would write, if only a single line. Lucy walks more than ever, and each night I'm awakened by her moving about the room. Fortunately, the weather is so hot she cannot get cold, but still the anxiety and the perpetually being wakened is beginning to tell on me, and I'm getting nervous and wakeful myself. Thank God. Lucy's health keeps me up. Mr. Holmwood has suddenly been called to the ring to see his father, who is taken seriously ill. Lucy frets about the postponement about seeing him, but it doesn't touch her looks. She is a trifle stouter, and her cheeks a lovely rose pink. She has lost that anemic look which she had. I pray it'll all last. August 3rd. Another week gone. No news from Jonathan, not even to Mr. Hawkins, from whom I have heard. I hope he is not ill. He surely would have written. I look at that last letter of his, but somehow it does not satisfy me. It does not read like him, yet it's his writing. I make no mistake of that. Lucy, not walked as much in her sleep the last week, but there's an odd concentration about her that I do not understand. Even in her sleep, she seems to be watching me. She tries the door, finding it locked, goes about the room, searching for the key. The 6th of August. Another 3 days and no news. The suspense is getting dreadful. If only I knew where to write or where to go, I should feel easier. But no one has heard a word from Jonathan since the last letter. I must only pray to God for patience. Lucy is more excitable than ever, but is otherwise well. Last night was very threatening. And the fishermen, they say we're in for a storm. I must try and watch it and learn the weather signs. Today is a gray day, and the sun, as I write, is hidden in thick clouds high over Kettleness. Everything is gray, except the green grass, which seems like an emerald among it. Gray earthy rock, gray clouds, tinged with the sunburst at the far edge, hang over into the gray sea, into which the sand points stretch like gray fingers. The sea is tumbling in over the shallows and the sandy flats with a roar, muffled in the sea mist drifting inlands. The horizon, lost in a gray mist. All is vastness. The clouds are piled up like giant rocks, and there's a brool over the sea that sounds like some sort of presage of doom. Dark figures are on the beach here and there, sometimes half shrouded in the mist, and seem men like trees walking. The fishing boats are racing for home, and the rise and dip in the groundswell as they sweep into the harbor, bend into the scuppers. Hey, here comes old Mr. Swales. He's making straight for me, and I can see by the way he lifts his hat he wants to talk. I have been quite touched by the change in this poor old man. When he sat down beside me, he said in a very gentle way, "I want to say something to you, miss." I could see he was not at ease, so I took his poor old wrinkled hand in mine, and I asked him to speak fully. And so he says, leaving his hand in mine, "I'm afraid, my dear, I must have been too shocked by the wicked things I've been saying about the dead, much like the league's best. I didn't mean them. I just want you to remember that when I'm gone. We all folks be daffle 1 foot about the crew call. Don't like to think anything of it. We're scared of it, and that's why I took making a light of it. I'd cheer up my own fool heart a bit. But Lord love you, miss, I ain't afraid of dying not a bit, and that's why I don't want to die if I can help it. But my time might be nigh at hand now, for I've been out and 100 years too much for any man to expect. So I'm so nigh about it. The old man it's already wet in the side. See, you can't get out of that habit of caffing around about me. Ones that chaffs would be wag as they used to. Someday old angel of death sounded trumpet for me, but don't all agree, my dearie. For I saw he was crying. If he should come down that very night, I did not refuse to answer his call. For life be, after all, only waiting for something else we're doing, and death would be all that we rightly depend on. But I'm content for it's coming to me, dearie. Coming quick. It might be coming when we're looking and wondering. Maybe it's out in the wind over the sea, bringing it with loss and wreck and sore distress and sad hearts. Look! Look! He cried suddenly. There's something in the wind, and in the host beyond the sound. It looks and tastes, it smells like death. I feel it in the air. I feel it coming. Lord, make me answer cheerful when your call comes. He held up his arms devoutly and raised his hat. His mouth moved, as though he were praying. After a few minutes' silence, he got up, shook hands with me, blessed me, and said goodbye, and hobbled off. It touched me, and upset me very much. I was glad when the Coast Guard came along. With his spyglass under his arm, he stopped to talk with me, as he always does, but all the time kept looking at a strange ship. I can't make her out. She's a Russian by the look of her, but she's knocking about in the strangest way. She don't know her mind a bit, but she seems to see the storms coming, but can't decide whether to run up north in the open or put in here. Look there again. She's steered mighty strangely. Doesn't mind the hand on the wheel. Changes about with every puff of wind. We'll hear more of her before this time tomorrow. And that concludes Chapter 6 of Dracula, Mouse Cartoon. Thank you for the raid. We've been reading Dracula while mining Birch because I need a ton of Birch, and it's not very fun to just sit here and gather Birch for 4 hours. Gusty Gale, coming in with the storm here, says, "Rip mumbly old guy." Thank you. That puts us 16 away from the next Face Camera expansion. So, let's see. Chapter 7 is going to be up next. Chapter 7 is a bit of a shorter chapter, but I'm not sure that I want to commit to reading it all tonight because I'm already pretty tired. But, just so you know what to expect next week we'll be reading Chapter 7, which is a combination of Mina's journal, the log of the ship she was just looking at, and a newspaper article about the storm. So, that's something to look forward to. Okay. This is good. Okay. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do now. Because I'm pretty tired, but I also need to check on something real quick to see if something is gonna... Okay, so one possible thing friends wanted to do tonight is not going to be tonight after all. So I don't have any obligation to end the stream. Okay. Because that was the thing, is I was like, if I end the stream to go do this thing that was like... Sometimes when people make super shaky late-night plans, I'm like, oh, is this actually going to happen or not? And I'm like, last thing I want to do is end the stream when I still got some energy and then be like, oh, the thing that I thought I was going to go do is not happening. So we're gonna keep playing for a little bit. We're not going to start Chapter 8, but or Chapter 7 yet, but we will just go ahead and clean this up. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about what we just read. Sorry that my my accents weren't as stable today as they have been. Just like I said, part of the goal of this is to try reading some of this stuff with different voices than I would normally use. And so I appreciate your patience while we're trying some of this stuff out. I think that when I get the accent for Mina right, it's good. It's just, I think it's a consistency issue, not a quality issue. Like the old man, I normally would have no trouble doing an old man voice like that, but swapping in between Mina's narration and his high speed. So the thing is, the way the book is written, the stuff the old man says is basically unreadable. Like, it's like Mina even says, like, I could barely understand his accent. Here are the sounds he was making, roughly, because it's just like this super fast talking old guy. Let's see. Ezra says, my least favorite part about being in my early 30s is that people make plans then decide to go to bed instead. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, well, you know what? Let's just do it tomorrow. I'm tired. And it's like, well, that's fine. I'm tired too, but like, I'm not ready for bed. Sophia says the old man voice was a high point. Yeah, I think I want to practice that more. Because, like, there are certain ones that are super easy to do because I practice them so much. The Keanu voice and the far too serious voice for Jonathan Out Loud and Jonathan's Journal, I had completely nailed down. And same thing for the Dracula voice. That's when I practiced a lot. Like the Wazowski voice for Renfield was probably actually kind of too creepy. Like, Renfield should be more hesitant, I think, probably, if you were actually gonna... Wait, what's going on? Okay, I'm getting a bunch of weird texts. Okay. Like, so my family at one point decided to make, like, a, 15-person text group. I think maybe because so many of us got off Facebook, that seemed like the only way to, communicate. But yeah, so occasionally I'll just, my watch will start going crazy because there's a lot of people talking very excitedly about something. Which is fine. I am glad people are excited, but, it's hard for me to, glance at it and go, is this an emergency? Why am I getting so many texts all at once? No, not an emergency. That's fine. Okay. What is shorthand? Asks Andre. Shorthand is a special type of cursive that encodes not just letters, but also there's symbols for certain words and stuff. So it's a way that stenographers and secretaries used to take notes very quickly. And so Mina and Jonathan have been practicing writing in shorthand because she wants to help him get his lawyer business off the ground. And so by taking notes on his cases in shorthand, she'll be able to, like, they'll be able to build a business together. Because unlike Lucy, who is, like, born rich, Mina is of lesser means. Geek of Many Topics tips 5 and says, what if they made Dracula into a found film style horror movie like Paranormal Activity? Well, I mean, the thing is, though, the whole book is structured like that. It's before found film existed, but it's like structured as like, here's a bunch of journal entries and letters and log entries from a ship and newspaper clippings. Like, arguably, found film horror movies are like people saying, what if we took the way that they wrote Dracula and did it with film instead of writing, right? I think Dracula really contributes a lot to... There's a reason found footage and horror work well together, because it's like Bram Stoker did a lot of things right here and kind of linked the two in people's minds. Yeah, the Birch is the inside wall, Stephanie Hall. So the outside wall is going to be 4 blocks away from it. So you see this channel here. That's the width of... But yeah. But yeah, Geek of Many Topics, thank you for the 5. That puts us 11 away from the next Face Camera expansion. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. Yeah, like the Blair Witch film is like a found footage movie. But, like, this is, like, found journal entries. This is a compilation of a bunch of random stuff into a story. Okay, so we need to go about here, and we need to poke some holes. We're going to start working on the birch wall there as well. Oh, here's the problem, is I had these nice markers here to, like, let me know how often to do them. But... Okay. So that should let us now work on this wall here, which I kind of got started on but didn't really follow through with. Nightshade Owl says, Joe, have you ever tried script writing? Yes. I worked on some short plays and stuff that never really went anywhere. And I wrote comics, like long-form story comics. But, I think being a playwright would be very cool, but that's one of those things that I don't have time to properly... That's a skill that I don't have time to properly develop. But I've read a lot of books about playwriting and analyses of plays, because I feel like developing a better understanding of narrative, like the things that make a play good structurally, are important for me to have when I'm thinking about how I edit my episodes, even though the episodes themselves aren't scripted, right? There's a lot of notes on how to edit your playwriting manuscripts, that I take the lessons from those books on editing your plays and apply that to editing my episodes. Does that make sense? because like there are playwrights who, you know, have like textbooks and stuff about writing plays, and they talk a lot about like where should a scene start, which parts of the action are important for the scene, does the scene matter for the overall work, right? So like if you're writing a short play that's 15 to 20 minutes, that's going to have a lot in common dramatically and timing wise with a short YouTube video that's 15 or 20 minutes, right? Centauratron says, do you have any tips for story writing? I don't think it's the sort of thing that you just necessarily have tips for. Like, I think you do, like, practice it and then learn from people who are experts as much as you can. Once again, I'm not like expert level. I don't teach this stuff. I don't know. I don't have the insight that some of the authors whose work I've read or people I've studied under had, right? So DJ Frogtime says, yeah, looking at many types of art, especially with something new like YouTube Let's Plays, is very important and useful. Yeah, because that's the thing is, like, there might not have been a bunch of 15-minute stuff made by people at random before, but oh wait, people were writing 15-minute plays or 20, you know. So the big difference between a 15 or 20-minute TV show and a 15 or 20-minute play is you don't have commercials, right? So a lot of advice for people writing television scripts are about how to structure your story so they work well with the commercials. And that's irrelevant. I'm not doing that here, right? So I'm not worried about that sort of thing as much. Whereas with plays, too, you're trying to hold people's attention more aggressively. Like, with TV writing, people are at home, and there's kind of a different set of expectations, right? I don't know anything about the members of the band Cake. Your guess is as good as mine. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, we can't use our super fast technique underwater, so this part's gonna be slow. Well, maybe we can use the technique underwater, but it gets weird because the water is buffeting us too much to make it usable in an enjoyable way. How far can I go with one trident and the elytra? Depends if I throw an ender pearl too. But if you throw an ender pearl, you can go beyond view distance that way. Okay, I need to change the Discord back because I was checking on my friend's Discord to see if we were doing stuff tonight. Okay. Bum, bum, bum. Talking about having a watch party for Labyrinth. Or possibly Joe versus the Volcano, which I was talking to Tango about the other night. Okay. Cool. So we've got the Discord chat back open. Jevin Raiders rolling in. Thank you, Jevin, for the raid. I hope you had a fantastic evening stream. We are here on the HermitCraft server today. Let me go ahead and I'll give you a quick overview of my build. All the Jevin Raiders rolling in. First, I want to show you where my build is. Yep, I am at my Megabase. My Megabase is almost, but not quite, due south of the shopping district. As you can see, we've got quite a few shops over here. Some of them are a little bit spoilery, so I don't want to go over there too much right now. I've been asked not to show too much of the shopping district on stream. This is my latest shop, my Relaxolotl, Mixolotl, where people can get tadpoles and axolotls here from these randomizers. Let's see here. So, my Megabase for this season, and this is in early days. I figure we've got about another year or so to work on this. It's a giant pinball machine. It is going to be themed after stellar observatories like the Hubble Space Telescope, the JWST, Spitzer, Chandra, that sort of thing. So we have the rough framework in place. The inside of a pinball machine is usually plain, unpainted wood. At the scale we're operating at here, the unpainted wood would be right here. The actual painted bits would be 4 blocks away, right? And you might say, Joe, why would you build a pinball machine at that scale? Well, because it perfectly fits 2 maps. So I've got a smaller scale model of my giant scale model pinball machine here. With the 2 maps, it's not entirely up to date. Some of the elevation on that is not ready. Hey, welcome at Astra Raiders as well. Glad you could join us. So I am currently building the framework inside which the electronics would be mounted and things like that. The artwork for the machine would go on the side there. I have a really rough early days mock-up of this. This is not the final art because I'm hoping that we get some more pictures out of the James Webb Space Telescope that look even cooler. But I'm imagining the side of the pinball machine. And once again, this is not even to scale. This is like a 10-minute mock-up. Imagine that was right there, right? The word deep field would be a deep field photo, which would be like black with like galaxies in it, on top of a lighter picture from JWST. Although, like I said, I haven't picked a particular picture yet because, you know, we've still got several months before I'm going to be at the phase where we're going to be doing the artwork on the side of this, and I want to see what more cool pictures they send back to Earth. Because if I start working on the artwork today, like 3 weeks after they launch, or 3 weeks after this telescope starts sending back pictures, I'm going to be really disappointed if like the perfect picture for the side of the machine comes in, right? So right now we're working on the interior of the machine, which is the plywood inner cabinet bits, where all the electronics and the playfield and stuff get mounted. And that involves placing a lot of birch. And so we are on that now. The back of the machine is neither painted with the fancy artwork nor birch. It's usually like a matte black finish with like a big sticker up here with some FCC logo info and info about not screwing with the back box improperly because it could fall on somebody. You don't want a back box to fall on you or a pinball machine. So we got Blackstone from Tango for the back of the back box here. We still need to put the birch inner layer in along here. That's kind of what we're on now. So yeah, that gets you guys up to speed with what I'm doing at the moment. So yeah, welcome one and all in the Twitch chat. Thank you again to Jevin for the raid. I hope that was a good summary of what I've been working on. And where I'm at on the HermitCraft server. Okay, so we're going to come up here. Somebody says you're poor elytra. Oh, boy. Yeah, you're not wrong. Okay. Well, the thing is, we're not really going to need the elytra too much for right now. I usually fix the elytra on a hydration break. I go stand at the spider farm and let the spiders spawn. But since we just got a bunch of people rolling in, it does not seem like a good time for that. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get out the plywood here, or birch log for this. And we are going to, this is a trick from my latest episode. I stumbled onto this when I was doing 4 hours of placing blocks. Somebody said, Joe, you can bind Q to place block, and you can place blocks faster. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds good, like with Swift Sneak and stuff. Yeah, that seems a little faster. I don't know. But then I noticed that if I was strafing and I had the mouse at a certain angle... Dang it, that wasn't it. It takes a second for me to get... There it is. I call this the galloping blocks glitch. It combines swift sneak and starting with the right mouse angle to maintain exactly the right pace for those blocks to just fly up there. And I can place all 10 stacks of these blocks in about 77 seconds if I'm going straight across and don't hit anything weird like this, which apparently I didn't level properly. I thought I had leveled everything before we got started. So I've got blocks in my offhand to act as a buffer when I'm scrolling between the main, what do you call them? The main stacks here. Okay. So, yeah, that should be okay. Going to the next one here. What I really should do when I get to the ends is swap out. Oh, dang it. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, it's getting dark and I'm the only one on the server. Oh yeah, I forgot that the thing isn't going to work right because... Yeah. Just putting that on the offhand. Kevin Brown says, I couldn't understand the name of the glitch until I heard it. Now I understand it. Yeah, it sounds like a gallop because it's like triplets. Okay, so we're gonna get more rockets. How's the elytra doing? 48. That's fine. Now I'm pretty sure that I also left a bunch more birch down there in the shulkers that I don't feel like getting right now. But let's go ahead and offload some of this in the meantime. Oh, I should actually go plant all those. Yeah. We'll come back to that. It's fine. Everything's fine. And place that there. If you rebind the pick block key, it messes up the gallop. The reason I'm doing the scroll wheel thing, believe me, I spent a lot of time experimenting with the pick block key and I couldn't make it work without it botching everything else. Okay. Not quite it. Hold on. There it is. Hey, welcome, Ryan. Glad you could join us. Now this is kind of, we're going short here because I need to get this level, but that's fine. So this is not quite as efficient. Hey, there's Dracula. So, yeah, we can just work our way across 3 blocks high at a time here pretty quickly, placing a lot of blocks real fast, like zip zip. Okay. Hey, welcome Gaming Guy Rob. I am having a great evening. We just got done reading Dracula Chapter 6. We read Dracula every Saturday night while doing really... Basically, whatever the most boring tasks are in Minecraft, I try to save for Saturday night, because the boring tasks are the easiest ones to read during. We'll come back for those slime machines later. Just bury them in the walls. It's fine. Yeah, plenty of people here are from outside the States, Ivan. Also, if people are like, I don't see that message, where is it? We've got 3 chats going on. Discord for Patreons, Patreon patrons. We've got a YouTube chat and a Twitch chat. Clash and Cheek says, can you only do this with Swift Sneak 3? I've only attempted it with Swift Sneaks 3 or with no Swift Sneak. I haven't tried Swift Sneak 1 and 2. Without Swift Sneak at all, I couldn't make it work. It might still be possible, but I don't know. Diamond Miner Mom says, Joe, my son is asking which buttons are you pressing. Could you please explain again? Okay, so while you have Swift Sneak 3, you need to bind place block to a button on the keyboard rather than on the mouse. So I put it on my Q button. And right now I'm holding down 3 buttons at once. I'm holding down the shift button to crouch. I'm holding down the A button to strafe to the left. And I'm holding down the Q button to place blocks. And then I'm scrolling the mouse wheel occasionally to adjust that. Yeah, Nashville traffic is pretty terrible. I really try to avoid driving every chance I can get. Yeah. If you look at the instructions in the description of episode 23, I tried my best to explain what was going on in a way that people could replicate. But I was kind of in a hurry because I was like, oh no. Like if you find a glitch in a game on stream, somebody else is going to try and beat you to publish if you're not careful. Somebody says, wouldn't it be easier to enable toggle for the crouch? Yeah, probably, but like I've never used toggle for crouch before, and I don't see any real reason to start now. Like, I don't think it doesn't, honestly, this is so much easier than any other way I've tried to do stuff like this, that like making it even less hard isn't a huge priority for me. So how are we on elytra durability? 45. Okay. Yeah, we're okay. So we're going to grab more of the birch here. How much of this do we actually store? Nowhere near the number of shulkers that I had hoped, clearly, but we're doing all right. Okay, I don't think we're in peril of immediately burning through our elytra while we work. So we're going to fly back real quick. Yeah, I don't crouch with my thumb, so I could understand why people who crouch with their thumb would want to have the hold shift thing, but I don't really need it. Okay. 40. Okay, yeah, see, we could do like 8 more flights like that and be fine. There and back. 8 more trips there and back. We could do that. Okay. Did I tell everyone where to tip? Great point. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. By my count, we are currently $11 away from the next face camera expansion, and 31 away from the entrance of the Jost. I don't crouch with my thumb. That's like a Mumbo thing. We have very different lives. How does that even work? Mumbo posted a picture of it on Twitter at one point because he mentioned in a video that his thumb hurt from crouching so much in one of the episodes, and everybody's like, how does that even happen? And he's like this, and he posts a picture of like the way he like rests his hand on the keyboard, and everybody's like, nope, unacceptable. Mumbo Thumbo. Nice. Okay. So this is only 128 wide, whereas the other ones were like 256. So it's a lot faster going back and forth here. Dang it. Didn't have the timing right. Or the placement. Hey, we got a tip rolling in. I can't click on that until we get to the end of this row, but I will go ahead and read that as soon as we get to the end of the row. Okay, now that y'all have got me thinking about my pinky and shifting, now it is actually starting to bother me. Like now I'm overthinking it. So fine, we'll turn on sneak toggle. I've never used this before, so I'm sure it's going to be a problem. Oh, that's weird. Okay, let's see who this tip is from. Clicking through. Robert, thank you for tipping 31, who says, being awesome, that will clear out the abacus entirely. Reset it. Boom. Two-phase camera expansions. The first one's pretty standard. Please direct your attention down here to the lower left so I could say, expand. And then for our next phase camera expansion, this fifth one's a little special when we clear the abacus out. Up till now, folks have gotten to see that money go straight to my head. But now, like Jacob Marley, these chains I forged in life have begun pulling me down to the deep below. Enter the joust. Bum, 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 bum. We are now at 90% Joe-pacity. Each additional face camera expansion will be accompanied by a corresponding drop in Joe-pacity. And we are now 20 even away from that next milestone. Thank you very much, Robert, for getting us 2 face camera expansions in one go. Woo! Okay, so now that I'm thinking about my pinky too much, we're gonna lock in shift. Okay, I haven't tested if this works with crouch shift on though. I actually don't know. Like, okay, good. I was gonna say in theory there's no reason it shouldn't work, but like for all I know, maybe there's some part of the glitch depends on the shift key on your keyboard being down or something. Because I had only tested it the other way. Oh dang! Is it getting dark? Uh-oh. We're gonna need to lay our heads down and dream soon. Okay, so let's go ahead and get out fresh sets of everything here. Boom. We still have 39 elytra durability left. That's plenty. We'll definitely survive this. Okay. What? How am I going down? Oh, because it's got. I've been sneaking this whole time, and so holding shift down, it was dropping. Okay. So weird. Okay, so we gotta level this out before we continue. Dang it, alright. Oh, because of the shift thing. I'm sure that this is actually better, but I'm so not used to it after playing Minecraft for 10 years. The way I play Minecraft without... Dang it. Okay, let's try that. Okay. Yeah, this is weird, but when I'm doing it in this mode, I'm fine. But like it's when I'm trying to get set up to do the next row that having toggle sneak is on, or like when I was trying to use the bed and stuff and couldn't figure out how to make the Okay. Whoa, uh-oh. I picked up the mouse because now I'm like intensely focused on my own comfort. Since you guys got me started thinking about this keyboard thing, I'm like, well, what if I stretch my wrist out a bit by picking up the mouse? Okay. Well, the visual cue for toggle sneak is that you're closer to the ground. So, like, I mean, I think that that's a fair... Like, there is a visual cue. Beetlejuice says, are you a week ahead of schedule yet? Kind of. I'm going to use that time to... Like, the weird thing is that, like, I'm going to use that time to make this better rather than, like... Dang it. I was going to say, it's not like I could just make a video about this glitch, but then I was like, oh yeah, I literally did just make a video about this glitch. But yeah, basically, my original plan was I was going to work on one of the walls until I ran out of time. And then I was going to go do something. One of the other hermits is working on a project that hasn't been announced yet that I was going to go get some footage from today, and that got postponed. So I'm kind of in a weird place on that. But, you know, that's just part of doing this sort of work. Is it like sometimes stuff gets rescheduled. Okay. Okay. Beetlejuice says, wasn't trying to troll. I didn't think you were trying to troll. I thought it was an honest question. Or I would have been rude. Wait, did I come across as rude? Maybe I'm just tired. My tired voice and my rude voice. I get very direct. I get very direct when I'm tired. Because I'm like, I should be doing something else, like being asleep. But the problem I have is, you know, there's this idea that if you do something like 12,000 times, you'll eventually get good at it. Like, if I try to go to sleep when I'm not ready, like, I'm really good at taking naps during the day, but going to bed at night, I just, like, I don't know, there's something about it I just struggle with. But because of my digestive problems, I don't want to really take any sort of medication, because I've had stuff like that interfere or interact with my digestive problems pretty severely in the past, and it was like a problem for like months where I was barely functional, and I can't afford to be less functional. So I'm just gonna keep doing my best to, like, you know, if I can tell I'm not ready for bed yet, I'm gonna keep working until I am ready for bed. Okay. Did I get a chance to watch Asuma's latest episode? Oh yeah, thanks y'all. Somebody here I think was the one that mentioned it. Yeah, I caught that yesterday evening and I tweeted about it. It was nice. Yeah, we're working on the interior walls of the pinball machine right now, which are supposed to be boring and plywood. We're gonna mount a bunch of stuff. Like, the hardware that would make the pinball machine work is going to be mounted to this wood. So we don't really need to decorate the wood, because it's going to be covered on the outside with artwork, and it's going to be covered on the inside with, like, circuit boards and stuff, right? We just haven't... Until we build the circuit boards, these are going to look pretty boring. But, yeah. How are we for Blackstone? We have enough Blackstone for the current phase we're on. We're going to need more later, believe me. But okay, so shift to sneak. There we go. Okay, so how close are we? This is our last bit of birch, it looks like. We can keep gathering more, which was part of what we were doing earlier this stream. But, still have a ways left to go upward here. Kind of tempted to call it a night soon. kind of one of those things where it's like, if I'm going to do something like gathering a bunch more birch logs or killing those spiders, I'd rather do it when I'm tired than when I'm awake and fully creative, right? So, in some ways, like, I can tell I'm not ready to fall asleep. And it's kind of late to go out anywhere. I don't know. I was looking forward to some plans with friends that fell through, which is also part of why I'm like, I was thinking that I would have had to end the stream earlier, but now that those plans are canceled, I'm like, well, I guess I'll keep streaming. But I'm like, I could always go do something by myself. But it's also really late. So, okay, we got plenty of birch trees here growing still. 38 more durability over there. Let's see. Anything going on over here? Cool. I think we're gonna do a hydration break and then gather some more birch. So we'll do the hydration break underneath the spider farm. When do I think I'll finish the base? About a year from now. My goal is to have it done by the end of the season, but honestly, it's such a gigantic project. Oh yeah, I'm holding down shift because of Swift Sneak. Okay, so we are going to set up our hydration break sign. I don't know if we have anybody left we still need to thank this month. We're getting to the end of the month. Okay. We've burned through all the people that made specific requests, but there are some patrons who did not request anything but are technically at the right tier, so then I usually just pick a song. Let's see. Oh wait, here's one. We haven't played Sammy's request for lines because we played lines so many nights in a row. That one got kicked to the back of the queue. So, okay, Sammy, thank you so much for supporting the show via Patreon. We're going to go ahead and play lines, and I will be right back.
Power line to convey a certain brilliance, a telephone line to carry a voice, a metro line to bring us all downtown. Lines of connection, communication, not the borders of boundaries that slice and dice a nation. Divided by the chalk lines of disreputable history, past failures are laid out as we shrug with absent mystery. Those bodies left behind us while we amble on ahead, fearful of the wrong things from newspapers unread. Before I tell you what to do or you try to tell me, let's all see what's been done and where we could have been. By knowing what's before us, the path might clear ahead and focus on new obstacles uncharted by the dead. Power line from a gurgling turbine, a telephone line from a quiet room, a metro line from across the city. Maybe we'll all raise our glasses soon. They say across the fence line the grass is always butcherous, but we're not corralling cattle, fearing wranglers about the murders. When we look out past dividers, we're unsurprised to see more folks erecting fences, becoming detainees. Before I worry about you or you worry about me, let's all dwell on ourselves, we're the private enemy. Because
I hope everybody got a good stretch in. Hope you got your fresh drink. Hope you're ready to go, go, go. Also, welcome to Chloe. Chloe, the great and powerful. Saw you popped in during the break. We are all hydrated. We have real light Trud. Might be good to get this axe fixed since we are going to be doing a lot of axe work. But, yeah. So, yeah, sorry you did miss Dracula. Honestly, yeah, I think it was my worst one yet because I was really... it's good creatively for me to stretch myself and try different accents, but, like, I had a hard time. So, hopefully by next week I'll be more on the ball. Because, like, I don't rehearse these in advance. Like, I don't have enough time to goof off and practice dumb voices like this, so I make time during the streams. If I didn't make time during the streams, it wouldn't happen. Wait. Chloe says it's my birthday today. Here's a gift for you, Joe. Well, okay, so first off, let's get that on the board here. 8 past our next face camera expansion milestone. We're going to expand this and lower the Joe opacity to 80%. But wait, no, I didn't get the size exactly right there. Hold on. Feliz cumpleaños, Chloe. Feliz cumpleaños, Chloe. Feliz cumpleaños a Chloe. El bien y... Oh boy, I don't know what powerful is. Wow, I really don't... I'm struggling here. I can't even think of the word for strong. Feliz cumpleaños a ti y muchas más. But Poderosa. Grande y Poderosa. There we go. Okay. Didn't have that rehearsed either. So, yeah. There we go. As you can see, the camera keeps getting bigger when tips roll in. We are currently now 12 away from the next face camera expansion. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Okay. We're going to go ahead and replace that sword. People are always like, Joe, why don't you go all the way to the end? And it's like, well, the cave spider farm is right next to my base. And the amount of time it takes to fix my gear is like the same amount of time it takes me to go do my hydration breaks. So just doing the hydration breaks and the gear fixes together. Perfecto. Okay. So... yeah. Up we go. Oh yeah, that's right. I was going to come back here and keep working on the wall, but the next step was actually to go back there. The reason we were fixing our axe, we had our fix axe out, was because we need to plant a bunch of these. Let's go reset our controls, since now that we're... So, sneak is back to hold, keybinds, we're going to put that back on. Right button. Welcome, Bobbit Door. Glad you could join us. Why is the frame wider than the birch walls? So, at the scale we're building the pinball machine, the plywood on the sides of the pinball machine is 5 blocks wide. So the birch is like the inside of the wood. Okay, hold on. Let me find something that I could use as like an example here. I feel like I had a thing I could use as an example. 1 second. Where is that thing? I had like a thing that I would hold up as an example of how stuff worked. And now I can't find it. That's going to frustrate me. Oh, boy. Okay, well... Huh. Well, I don't know where that thing went. Okay, so we'll just use this laptop. Okay, so let's say that you got... the walls are thick enough on the sides of the pinball machine that it's 5 blocks wide. So the outside wall here would be where the art is. And that is going to be a 1 block thick bunch of cool artwork. The interior wall, though, on the other side, though, is going to be birch planks that you would mount circuit boards to. Does that make sense? So the framework marks where the outer wall, where the outer edges of the wood are. Rose as a Romeo says, now that the walls are going in, my brain is better able to see the massive scale of the build. Yeah, I was trying to show people, like, this is a different scale of the same pinball machine. But, yeah, when I stand up here, if I actually turn this on, that actually kind of almost works. There was, like, I was standing almost perfectly where it would go last time. But, yeah. So, like, the artwork and stuff would rise out of the sea where the frame is there. Is kind of how that would work. This is just a super quick mock-up. That's not the final artwork. That's something I threw together in 10 minutes for the announcement of the theme. But yeah. Boom, 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 boom. Already lay your head down and dream, Nepeta. Boom, 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 boom. I don't know why I always. It used to be that you had to break the leaves to encourage the new sapling you planted to grow better, but I think they changed that like before Minecraft was out of beta. What am I building? A giant pinball machine, colossal scale. I call it Deep Field. The marketing flyer for arcade owners would say something like, plunge into darkness and capture ancient light. Boom, 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 boom. Whoops. So we're not gaining a bunch of falling saplings. Okay, there are a few. We're not too worried about like going after them with the fortune hoe or anything. It does help it if air is above, really? Okay. I think there used to be a thing where being in direct sunlight helped saplings grow quicker or something. I found the floating trees I left during the reading. Oh, I'm sure I'll find them eventually. They'll be pretty obvious when everything else is chopped out. Something with random tick rules. Okay. Well, and that's the thing is there's always stuff like that where it's like, oh, that was patched out 7 years ago, Joe. You didn't know that? I'm like, well, you know, why would I need to? It's not like the trees stop growing if you knock that out. Welcome, Beans. Glad you could join us. Okay. Picking all these up. Gotta replant them. Okay, that's definitely an example of one that did not get done. Okay, saplings are starting to fall there. Okay. Have a good night, Judith. Lay your head down and dream. Fresh Lancer says, Joe, as someone who games professionally, are you a mechanical keyboard guy, or do you see that as more specific? I mean, I like things that are well made, in general, but like, I don't know. Right now, I'm using a keyboard I got as a gift from a friend because it has sentimental value, but honestly, I don't think it's necessarily better than the 102 key Apple keyboard that I had been using. Just like the standard USB Mac keyboard is fine for all sorts of gaming applications. This one's a little louder, and I don't think the sound is good for video making as in the same way, but I don't know. Like, there's a difference between being a professional gamer who like plays like high intensity, high speed games and a professional gamer who records for a living. So I think that this keyboard has very satisfying sounds that I like. And like I said, it was a gift from a friend, so it has positive emotional connection with me that make the sounds endearing to me. But it might be better for my channel if I just went back to playing with the Apple keyboard. Because that thing, you could barely hear it. Elijah says the keyboard sounds are beloved. Not Gad says, I like the keyboard sounds. Yeah, like this one has a very distinctive sounds to it. Which I think is good for showing that it makes the gameplay feel more real, that the voiceover has the keyboard in the audio track, right? It shows that like I'm doing this live, I'm recording it live, and I feel like that adds to the immediacy of the Let's Play format in a positive way. But it's not something honestly, it's the sort of thing that I could go either way on. But I would not have bought this keyboard for myself. I would have kept using the silent Apple one, or the basically silent Apple one. How are we doing on timber here? I feel like I'm not gathering this as quickly as I should be. And I'm not sure if that's just me losing track of the ability to process time, or me being naturally inclined to think I should be better at things than I am. 5 stacks, well, that's okay. It's just not great. Oh, why is the camera so big? Well, when we hit tipping milestones, the camera gets bigger. We are $12 away from the next face camera expansion. And tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Okay. Let's go lay our head down and dream over here in this corner. Bum, bum, bum. Scar joined the game. Howdy, Scar. You know, we can change... change our status to be open now that we are not reading Dracula. I just disappointed Jeff last week because he wanted to like shoot at me, and I'm like, I have an in-studio guest reading Dracula aloud with me. Sorry, it's not the right day. Welcome, Quiet Devious One. We are getting some beehives in here, which is nice. Okay. applying Scar reads the status mod. He might not have it turned on. No, it looks like he's installed it. We all had to update our audio mod. Boy, Scar with Q powers. Scar Trek. Mon Capitan. Good times with Q. No, I liked the Q episodes of Star Trek a lot myself. Okay. Okay, getting a bunch of alerts somewhere else. There, I can ignore those. Okay. Can I ignore these? Cool. It's always good to make sure that nothing's going on that I need to worry about. Yurgi says, Q is hilarious, but hilarious in a way that makes you glad he's not real. Yeah. There's a safety in the humor. Scar can have some Q powers as a treat. We should do a season that's Star Trek themed. I say now that I'm doing a season that's space themed in general. It's like this season's space themed, but next season we can go more specific. So I will say, if you haven't started watching Star Trek Strange New Worlds yet, I think I'm like 6 episodes in, and it's way better than I was expecting. Because I was dubious, since it's kind of a spin-off of Discovery, and Discovery has a lot of things that kind of, I don't know, stress me out. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be fun or not. But it's very fun. The guy that they've got playing Pike is amazing. If you have a good cast, that goes a really long way on a Star Trek show. But then you also have to have good episodic writing. One of the things I didn't like about Discovery was it was more season-long arcs than, like, episodic stuff. Same thing with Picard. Like, Picard didn't have good episodes. It had it was like a 10-hour movie, but where they, like, weren't really paying attention to the stuff that happened an hour ago or an hour later. But yeah, Strange New Worlds is about Captain Pike's Enterprise. The thing I liked, so they have an episode that is called Spock Amok, and I'm like, okay, this episode is either going to be really good or really terrible. Kirk is not in this. This is the Enterprise before Kirk takes it over. It's Captain Pike's Enterprise. And I'm like, this Spock Amok episode is either going to be really good or really infuriating. And the premise is that Spock's fiancée, T'Pring, comes to visit him on this starbase because they both have work in the area. He has a a diplomatic thing with a potential world that wants to join the Federation that he's part of the diplomatic group on, and she's got something for her work capturing and rehabilitating dangerous criminals. And so they're both in the area, and she's hoping to spend time with him, and it's going poorly. So they decide to try this Vulcan what do you call it? Ritual that would help them see each other's perspectives better. And like the Vulcan Katra soul thing in Star Trek has always been hand wavy mystic, right? And so there's not a lot of good canon about what you can and can't do with Vulcan psychic rituals. It's very open-ended. And so the two of them switch bodies, and immediately this is now like a Freaky Friday episode of Star Trek, except the two people involved are incredibly logical and direct people who don't like lying. And so they're trying to figure out how to deal with this body swapping situation while they both have like delicate workplace obligations. And it's one of the conversations they have are these super terse, high speed someone is activating the door chime. If you ignore it, they will go away. I found the quickest way to make someone go away is to respond to the chime and ask them to go away. As these are my quarters and you are in my body, you should be the one to answer the chime and request the person at the door leave as quickly as possible. And so Spock's fiance is just like, Spock, Spock, I know you spend a lot of time with humans, but as a Vulcan, I do not approve of hijinks. And the whole episode, they're constantly trying to like completely logically solve this very comedic situation that they're in. But like they're constantly like, like because they have like a few people over the course of the episode that they like let in on it because they need help like maintaining the facade, and it's like Nurse Chapel is giving Spock advice on this, and Spock is just like, that does seem the most logical course of action. However, when you say it out loud, it gives the appearance of veering dangerously into hijinks. Like Spock cannot have any antics. Like we are in this completely absurd situation, and we have to we have to like deal with it but like that's one of the conditions is Spock and T'Pring are like, okay, we'll help each other with our workplace problems, but only as long as there's no hijinks. But the whole episode is just nonstop hijinks, and I don't feel like I'm spoiling it by saying that, because like if this gets you to watch a show you wouldn't have otherwise, if you like Star Trek but didn't like a lot of the modern Trek, it's like, nope, these people get it. These people know how to, like, and they have a lot more serious episodes too. And there's a few things where I'm like, I don't like the logic of that, or I don't like the logic of this, or whatever. But yeah, they know how to write a good Star Trek episode, and I was excited because I heard that apparently they are going to be doing a crossover episode. I don't know if any of y'all watched The Lower Decks, but apparently season 2 of Strange New Worlds, they have approved a script that's going to be a crossover episode. The Lower Decks people, like the voice actors, all look very similar to their characters. I don't know if they planned that from the beginning, but they've like done stuff where they've gone to conventions and stuff in their characters' like costumes, and the cast looks like the cast of the show, even though it's an animated show, right? So apparently they're gonna be the ship and the crew from the Lower Decks are gonna have a crossover episode in season 2 of Strange New Worlds. And honestly, Lower Decks is my favorite Star Trek show ever, and I am very excited to see how that episode goes. And I started thinking, like, I'm the sort of person, I hear people talking about something like that, and I'm like, oh, how would I write that if I was going to write that episode? And I'm like, okay, so the obvious thing to do is just to have the Lower Decks guys end up traveling back into the past and trying to and they have to sneak aboard the Enterprise, basically the same way that they did in the Deep Space Nine episode with the Tribbles, where they're like, okay, we've got to find on the Enterprise where this future time smuggler hid his future time drugs or something like that, but we can't be noticed by the people from the past. That's the like Baby's Day Out basic version of this. But then I was like, the actual next level version of this, and I'm gonna move further away from the microphone. Okay, you guys can still hear me when I talk normally, I hope. Don't turn up your audio. There's a reason I'm stepping away from the microphone. So I think the best way to do this, though, is one of the fun things about the Lower Decks era is that a lot of the rules that exist in later Star Trek, or sorry, not Lower Decks. One of the fun things about Strange New Worlds era. Strange New Worlds is Captain Pike's Enterprise. It's before Kirk. A lot of the rules that Starfleet has exist because of Kirk. Kirk did a lot of things that weren't explicitly forbidden, but are now. Because Kirk did them, right? So when you have a show that takes place 10 years before Kirk, in theory, a lot of the same technology and techniques that Kirk used theoretically already existed. They just weren't, like, banned yet or public knowledge, right? So the rules about traveling into the future and what you're allowed to encounter if you travel into the future are not really clearly written at the time of Strange New Worlds. So my optimal script for Strange New Worlds Season 2 crossover with Lower Decks is that Pike and his senior, Pike, Spock, and like Nurse Chapel or whatever, like the ship gets stranded in the future. Oh, also, one of the great things about Strange New Worlds is they've got a guy on the crew who's like a biophysicist named Samuel Kirk. And so every episode they, that Kirk is in, they always make a reference, like before he shows up. Where's Lieutenant Kirk? He should be here any second. And then, like, this guy who's clearly not James Kirk and, like, has a huge mustache rolls in, and he's like, Sam Kirk reporting for duty, sir. Sorry I'm late. Oh, boy. Let me tell you what's going on the lab. Kirk, we don't have time for your nonsense. Look at this data. Help Mr. Spock out. You're the specialist here. Okay. Yeah, Spock, you know your science, but I know the biophysics, that sort of thing. So, anyway, what I would do is I would have, like, the Enterprise gets sent into the 23rd century and meets up with the Cerritos, which is the lower deck crew or whatever, but they're hiding. Like, the Enterprise is like, oh no, we've traveled to the future. We don't know what the future's like. We need to hide and figure out if it's peaceful. These look like Federation ships, but we don't know what's going on. We need to do some reconnaissance, right? So the captain says, okay, Spock, Spock, you and Lieutenant Kirk and I will go over there, right? But, okay, well, we've done some scans. We think we know what their uniforms are, so we'll send you over there in some fake uniforms as disguises. You'll all be ensigns. Nobody's going to be looking for you. And, the captain will be like, I think if I was an ensign at this age, people would think that I was probably pretty bad at my job. And, it's just like, well, just tell them you get in a lot of bar fights. It's like, okay, fine. So you have Spock and Pike and Sam Kirk teleport over to the Cerritos, and they're just like, okay, everybody keep a low profile. We need to gather some information and figure out if we can use any of this future technology to get home. And immediately, like, they turn a corner. And Mariner's like, oh my god, it's Captain Pike! It's Captain Pike! Oh my gosh, are you on a time travel adventure? And Spock is here! Boimler! Tandy, get over here! Spock is here! It's Spock! Look, it's Spock! It's Spock! And everybody's just, and like, Spock is just like, Captain, it appears that our incognito mission is not going well. And, and Pike says something like, Kirk, can you at least tell me that, like, these are still humans, that we're not, like, everybody's not taken over by nanobots or something? Are these safe people to talk to, or are we in some sort of nightmare holographic hellscape? And Mariner's like, oh my god, Kirk is here too! And turns and it's like, Sam Kirk, good to meet you. I'm glad I got oh. Never mind, I thought you were someone else. Sorry. Anyway, what's up? Right? That's I think how you do this episode. That's how I would do this episode. And so the idea is that, like, Pike is like, okay, well, we're trying to maintain a low profile here. And Mariner's like, oh, no, that's good. Us lower decks guys, we know how to keep things off the captain's radar. Like, like Tendy's running, Tendy has a different still for every kind of, Alterian brandy you could want. Technically, you're not allowed to call it that if it's not made in Alteria, but, that's fine. You do a whole thing with this. And so basically it's the lower decks ensigns and Captain Pike, Spock, and Sam Kirk running around the Cerritos trying to stay under the radar of the bridge crew. Not because not because they would actually be in trouble, but because Mariner lies to them. Mariner's gonna lie to them and tell them that they would get in trouble. Like, oh no, time travel is super forbidden here in the present. You cannot be a time traveler. No, if the captain gets word and she doesn't report you, she loses the ship. If I don't report you, I get busted back down to ensign next time that I hit lieutenant. And I've done that like 4 times. I am great at that. No, we gotta keep this off the radar. We gotta keep this low, right? Like, and it's one of those things where, like, at some point Spock would be like, sir, I downloaded the future Starfleet regulations, and there's nothing in here about time travel along those lines. Although it does appear that there's a lot of other stuff that we're really not supposed to be doing. We're breaking every rule except the one that she made up. Like, that sort of thing, right? Sorry, I'm gonna move. Yeah, hijinks. I'm gonna move back to the thing here. I just wanted to do the excited Mariner voice because I genuinely love how excited the lower decks crew gets about space stuff. Like that's the thing that I really think that they capture is like this sense of wonder and fun. Like Lower Decks is like, I was kind of worried it was going to be like a dumb Family Guy ripoff in space. It's seriously, I love Star Trek. I have been watching it since I was a small child. And Lower Decks, in my opinion, of all the new Star Trek shows, Lower Decks demonstrates the best understanding of the source material and the most enthusiasm and joy of it, right? And it's very silly. But you know what? I'm a very silly person. Imaginary Theta Sigma says, we're breaking every rule except the one she made up. Right? That sounds like a good Spock quote, right? I'm glad that that sounds like a plausible Spock quote. Nico and Indy says, despite knowing nothing about Star Trek, this is a fun day. That's the thing, is like when somebody's enthusiastic and excited about something, it's infectious. And like Lower Decks and Strange New World are both very enthusiastic about the possibilities of the setting. Like Star Trek is an incredibly imaginative and interesting setting for all sorts of stories. And Strange New Worlds gets that. The biggest problems I had with Picard and Discovery was they weren't embracing the medium. Like, the Star Trek works best in episodic form. Even Deep Space Nine, when it had an overarching story for the season, it was very episodic. It's about possibilities. When you're out on the edge of space exploring these things, you never know what you're going to find next week, right? And so in Discovery, where everything's really like, okay, well, we did this last episode, so we did A last episode, so now we have to do B this episode, so now we have to do C next episode. And Picard was kind of like that, except more non-linear. Like, we did A last episode, so now we need to do Omicron this episode, now we need to do 4 next episode. It's like, Picard is like, they're trying to follow this insane, bizarre sequence that makes no sense. Like, but like, Discovery was very formulaically driven by the overall season story in a way that was, it didn't have the same opportunity for surprise and adventure the same way. Beetlejuice, I don't know if you are playing Family Feud right now, but I love the idea of the Family Feud guy pointing at the board and going, "Show me Picard's flute!" Like, and it's like Picard's flute 43. Yeah. But yeah, the setting of Star Trek is all about the vastness of space and the incredible unknowable opportunities that arise from exploring it. And it's fun. It should be fun and challenging and scary and exciting. And but yeah, Kindleless also mentions Rutherford would be psyched for Sam Kirk and no one else would get it except Tendi. Honestly, I love the idea of Pike and Spock sneaking past. What's the name of the first officer of the ship on of the Cerritos? What's the name of that first officer guy who's always like lifting weights and working out when he's doing the performance reviews and stuff? That guy is great. But like, I love the idea of that guy, of all people, like interacting with Spock and Pike. No, not Shax. Shax is the security guy. No. The first officer. He's like a Riker kind of parody. I'm blanking on his name. Yeah, Shax is the security chief. I'm thinking of the guy, Jack O'Connell. That might be it. Yeah. So him like interacting with Pike and Spock, and absolutely like they're like he's like on a turbo lift with them, and it's just like ensigns, and they're like commander. And then, he's like looking at his pad, tapping away. And then he kind of looks up at Spock, looks back at his pad, keeps tapping away, looks up at Pike, keeps tapping away, looks up at Sam Kirk and goes, "Oh my God, it's Sam Kirk! You were like my father's hero! The reason I got into bodybuilding was because he wouldn't shut up about your stupid nerd stuff, and I swore I would never be like that. We have pictures of you in 3 rooms. There's a sculpture of you in our lawn." Like, and just like, just the one guy who recognizes Sam Kirk has, because like Rutherford being like a nerdy kind of guy, or Tendi recognizing Sam Kirk because of his pioneering biophysics research, right? No, sorry. Ransom was played by Jerry O'Connell. Yeah, Commander Ransom. Sorry. Yeah, played by Jerry O'Connell, or voice acted by Jerry O'Connell. Him freaking out about Sam Kirk, and like being like, "Oh my God!" Like, and him going to like Pike and Spock, "This guy's a time traveler or something." Like, ensigns, you have no idea how big a deal it is to be in an elevator, or to be in a turbo lift with Sam Kirk. What's your mission? What are you doing here? And Kirk's just like, if I told you that, it could destroy the whole future. And like Ransom's just like, okay, you two morons, don't tell anyone you saw this. You like, there's a whole angle here. No enter chest. Imagine a Theta Sigma says this doesn't sound like a TV show. It sounds like a better written Marvel movie. I mean, any Marvel movie could be better written if they hired me. Just, maybe not anyone. There are some of them that I don't think that I would have been able to contribute very much to. Because everybody has different skill sets. And one of my skill sets is knowing funny Star Trek stuff. Kindle Says the Cerritos going back in time would pretty much work with exactly the same scenarios. Yeah, the Cerritos being back in time and the Enterprise sneaking on board, the Enterprise crew sneaking on board to investigate, like, if this is some sort of infiltration or something. Yeah. But I think for it to really work, though, you need the crew of the Enterprise investigating the Cerritos. But, oh, actually, no. The way you do this is you have the crew of the Enterprise investigating the Cerritos. And at the same time, the bridge crew of the Enterprise goes to the Cerritos, and the bridge crew of the Cerritos goes to the Enterprise. But, like, they're all dressed as ensigns because they're trying to stay under the radar. And, like, the captain is, saying to the chief of engineering something along the lines of, wow, this is the dangest thing. I would have thought we wouldn't run into Spock by now. And the chief of engineering is like, yeah, or Scotty or something. But hey, there's Uhura. And like Uhura's like, hi, do I know you? Like, and they're like, Cadet Uhura, just heard you're an up-and-comer. Keep up the good work. The captain kind of punches her in the arm or something. Uhura's just like, did you just hit me? And, like, starts, like, messing with her, Like, there's a whole angle here. I think it's funniest if the crew of the Enterprise absolutely immediately detects the crew of the Cerritos on board their own ship. So, because the bridge crew of the Cerritos is just so terrible at this infiltration. Meanwhile, though, the only people on the Cerritos that know Pike and Spock are there are the lower decks crew, and everyone else, like whoever's left on the bridge of the Cerritos, is just like completely unaware that Pike and Spock and Sam Kirk running around, right? I think there's also something funny about, like, when Spock gets back to the Enterprise, he's talking to Nurse Chapel about his time in the future, or on board the future ship. And she's like, so Spock, any surprises about the future? Oh, I forgot the best part. I forgot the best part of this Mariner scene when I was doing the shouty part. Oh my gosh. Okay, so one of the big overarching things in Star Trek Strange New Worlds, one of the only overarching things, is that Pike, like, in his bits in Discovery, witnessed his own thing. Witnessed his own like the thing where he goes into. Oh God, I don't. There's like a bunch of fancy Star Trek words for this. I can't remember. But basically, Pike famously ends up in this like crazy pressure chamber Dalek style wheelchair thing because he saves a bunch of children from this like radioactive disaster, and Pike knows that this happens because he witnesses this. Basically, when there's this thing in Discovery where it's like, okay, you can use this time crystal to save everyone, but in doing so, you'll lock in your own future you'll lock in whatever future you see for yourself as an immutable fact in the timeline. Like, basically, if you see something you don't like, you can reject it, but you can't get the benefits of grabbing the time crystal. It's one or the other. And they need the time crystal to save everybody. So he takes the time crystal, but he knows that he's going to end up basically having this like life-ending accident where he's basically a vegetable almost in like this Dalek future like roll-around compression chamber thing. And so there's a whole angle of Mariner being like, oh my God, and it's the good early Pike before the radiation accident and the chair with the light on it and everything. Oh no, you're not supposed to know about that. And he's like, I know I'm not supposed to know about that, and it's already been a huge problem. Right? So they can also lampshade the foreknowledge thing there in a fun way that could actually like legitimately help him come to terms with his legacy or things like that. Sorry, I'm going on a lot about this. The lower decks could mention Spock's unification work, so they can call the episode Unification Part 0. That's not a bad choice. But so the thing is, it's technically a Strange New Worlds episode, not a Lower Decks episode. But based on the hijinks in Spock Amok, I am 100% sure they are on board with the having hijinks Lower Decks style. They wouldn't have the Lower Decks crew if they weren't gonna do this right. Keybinds. Okay. Yeah, so calling it Unification Part 0 is pretty funny, but that sort of gag in the title of the episode feels more like a Lower Decks gag. So that's the weird thing, is that they're going to structure it probably more like a Strange New Worlds episode with Lower Decks elements. They would probably have like a amusing name, but not like a straight up parody name, right? Like it might be called something like Double Time, or Discovery did have Unification Part 3. Oh, that is okay. You're turning me around on this. Okay, that's an interesting angle. Yeah. So it does tie a lot of things together. You're not wrong, Kindleless. You're making a strong case here. Somebody said, okay, I didn't want to address this in the chat when it came up 45 minutes ago, because I felt like it was too much of a derailing of the Strange New Worlds talk, because I'm really enjoying the Strange New Worlds talk. Yeah, Pike does know that Spock's important in the future. True. So Ronan says, I know nothing about Star Trek, but I'm enjoying this. So that's the thing, is I felt like this was a conversation we could have, even people who don't know Star Trek could enjoy. Somebody had asked if the Hermits were going to play different Star Trek characters. If we did like a HermitCraft stage play of a Star Trek or something like that, like which characters would we play? And I think that the way to do this is to go series by series, right? Because there's too many good answers for each Hermit. I think if it was the original series, I would want to play Spock. I think so. The thing is, I've got the whole like far too serious. So basically, part of that is that like when I would be kind of in my far too serious mode at work, when I'm like I would generally, I was kind of doing a Spock impression without it doing a Leonard Nimoy impression. Like my far too serious voice is very like. So I've kind of been doing, for like several hours a day for the last 10 years, kind of a Spock impression, even if it's not a Leonard Nimoy impression. Your enthusiasm for this idea is commendable. However, I worry that without sufficient planning, any attempts to execute it will result in disappointment for everyone involved. Right? Like, that's not exactly a Spock line, but, like, that's... I think, who would be Harry Mudd and why is it Iskel? Good question. Harry Mudd was, like, a con man in the first show. People are saying Green could be Green could be Scotty. Impulse is the speed of the engines. Oh, whoops. Let me reload that here. Impulse could be the engine speed, yeah. Who would be Kirk of all the hermits? I think Wells Knight could maybe pull off Kirk in an interesting way. Tango... Let's see. Cleo would be a good Bones. Scar. Okay, Scar as Kirk would be really good. Okay, let's jump forward to Next Generation. That might be more familiar to people because I'm not seeing a lot of suggestions here, and I want to keep this going. Next Generation. Of all the characters, I don't know that there's one Next Generation character I would want to play in particular the way I would want to play Spock. Who on Next Generation do you think I would be if you were going to cast me in a Next Generation role? Which is the Picard era Enterprise. Toxic says Data, so is Dottie Matrix. Similar to Spock, points out Ezra Manning. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think Scar would be a really good Kirk. I'd be an interesting Troy. I don't think you're wrong. Troy would be an interesting character. Because it's very, like... Barclay. Barclay would be the most fun to play. Barclay would be the most fun to play. Stress would be a hilariously good Troy. B-dubs as Wesley. Oh, O'Brien would be a very fun character to play. I think Impulse could be a really good O'Brien. Next Generation era. Etho could be a good Riker, Kindlist suggests. I don't know if there's a clear choice for Picard. I think maybe in some ways Isuma might end up being kind of Picard adjacent, but like it's not dead on. Iskall is Worf. Rendog for Riker. Doc is Worf. I like Doc as Worf. I think that would be a good one. Poster Nerd says definitely Impulse as O'Brien. Yeah, so Yergi points out Picard's a hard one to cast because he's very thoughtful and private, and nobody on the HermitCraft server is thoughtful and private. Grian as Lore with Mumbo as Data would be really interesting. Having them as the robot brothers. Scar as Q would be amazing. People are like, yeah, I'm not really feeling X as Picard. Yeah, that's the thing, is like... Tinfoil Chef as Picard? I don't know. He's like too jolly. Cub, I think you're right. I think Cub could pull off a Picard better than most of us. Okay. Tango is Beverly because she knows how to dance the literal tango. Not the most foolhardy suggestion I've seen. Who would play LaForge? Probably one of the Redstoners. Who's good at solving problems that way? False as Tasha Yar would be awesome. False might also actually work as Picard, though, too. Yeah, because kind of private and thoughtful. Yeah, Fresh Lancer, we're not going to talk D&D alignments right now. That's like its own whole separate argument. Etho as LaForge could work. I mean, he does objectively come up with some of the most... Swap Impulse for LaForge and have Mumbo as O'Brien. Tango for LaForge. Oh wow, I'm so nearly done with this. I was like, let me just swoop down here. Who would Pearl be? Good question. Honestly, Toxic says Asuma as Guinan. Honestly, I think Cleo is a better listener than Asuma. Who would you say is the best listener on the server? Because Guinan is defined by her ability to listen. So if we had False as Picard, Pearl could be Tasha Yar at that point. It's hard to cast the more serious characters because we're all so wacky. I know, right? Cleo would be perfect as Guinan, as she both is good at listening and is terrifying. So, who's Riker in this case? Because I feel like if we have... the best Mumbo and Grian casting is definitely as Data and Lore. So... that... Because, like, otherwise I would almost say, like, have Grian as Riker. But, like... Ren as Riker or Etho as Riker are both solid. Riker needs to be someone who plays off whoever's Picard. So if we had False as Picard, who do you have play Riker? Yeah, Mumbo's Data and Grian's Lore. Sorry, did I say that backwards? Scar as Riker is appealing as well. Dang it. Let's see if we can get this. Dang it. Almost. Dang it. Yeah, do any of the Hermits play trombone? Hypno as Riker is an interesting suggestion. What about Corrales? Which Star Trek The Next Generation character is Corrales the most adjacent to? Because Corrales has not shown up in at all. People are now saying Q. Scar as Q I think I like a lot, but I'm curious who Corrales would be good as. Hey, we got another 20 rolling in from Laura, who says Star Trek. Yay! Well, thank you, Laura, for supporting the arts and my show in particular. That gets us $8 past our next Face Gamer expansion milestone. So here we go. Expand. Corrales could just play the aliens every week. Okay, we're going to lower the Joe opacity now to 70%. Corrales would be Chekhov in the first season, says Kevin Brown. That's a great suggestion. Corrales could be Gowron? Gowron is amazing. It's because he has the eyes. He has the big eyes. Okay, we haven't moved on. We haven't moved on to Deep Space Nine yet. We're still on Next Generation for right now. But yeah, I can tell that people are starting to get ready. People are anxious to move on to Deep Space Nine. Okay. Jevin could be one of the Andorians with the antennae, because he's already blue. Deep Space Nine comes before Voyager, Ravenpain. We're going chronologically. That's how time works. Okay. So in Deep Space Nine, we got a lot of interesting choices for a lot of characters here. I think Cleo would make a good Dax. I think Corrales could be a very good Quark. Who would be Odo? Scar as Odo in Deep Space Nine, says Kevin Brown. Sisko's more of a take-action guy than Picard. The one time he faced off with Q, he punched him in the face. That's true. Isuma could be Odo, says Kindleless. You're not wrong. That would work. Cleo could be Odo. I think Cleo is more of a Dax. She's more like, I've been around long enough that I don't care about the rules, whereas Odo is all about order and structure. So Corrales as Odo, or sorry, no, Corrales as Quark and Isuma as Odo. I think because Cleo for Jadzia Dak, but Jem as Esdri Dax. That works very well, Dottie Matrix. Scar as Garrick suggests a Shinhart. Xander says I should play Quark. Or Xander says Joe should play Quark. This is when Impulse gets to play O'Brien, says Ravenpain. Impulse is O'Brien. Who would you have as Dr. Bashir? Because, like, Bashir, when he starts out, he's young, he's excited about being on the frontier. I would almost say Bashir should be Jem or Pearl, but the Cleo as Jadzia and Jem as Esri works really well. B-Dubs as Quark is solid. B-Dubs as Quark is a solid suggestion. Zedaf as the young doctor is actually a really interesting suggestion. Hey, Sammy. We are talking about if we were going to cast different Star Trek shows with hermits, who would be what? I think Zedaf as Bashir, because he's like really smart, but he's like young and he's excited about being out on the edge, right? Beef, yeah, let's see. You know, I feel like TFC could play Morn. TFC is the Grand Nagus, says Drew Baca. Moon's here. Or not Moon. I'm so tired. Howdy, Pearl. The thing is, I'm not sleepy. I'm just haven't gotten enough sleep. So I'm at the point where it's like, if I go like try to lie in bed, I'll just lie in bed for 4 hours. I need to keep working for a little while longer. Otherwise, I'm like, I can tell, like, I'm just pearlescent morn. Have a good night, Centauratron. Who would play Quark's brother? So, Rom. Oh, Corrales? If you had Corrales play Rom, and you had B-dubs play Quark, who would play Rom's son, Nog, at that point? Etho would make a fantastic Cisco. I absolutely agree with you there, VJ. XB could be Nog, because Corrales and XB work well together. Grian as Gul Dukat, I would like. I think Grian would be a good Gul Dukat. Who would be Jake? So, if XB... I feel like if XB was Nog, in some ways you want to have Jake be Hypno. Right? Who... Like they have a good kind of energy together. Or people are saying maybe Vintage Beef instead. Sorry, Ten Chili. Yeah, we're... Drew Baca agrees that if XB Craft is Nog, then you'd cast Jake as Hypno. Hey, Oliver Luss. We are working on the HermitCraft server right now. Collecting wood for my giant pinball machine here. It's a work in progress. Let's lay our head down and dream. Kira could be Pearl or maybe Etho. I think False could be a good Kira. Like, you really... Like... I think Kira would be a very fun character to play. So for me, we were talking about impulses, O'Brien. You know, for me, I would want to either play Kira or Garrick. I think those would be the two most interesting characters for me personally. That doesn't mean that that's necessarily the best casting. Like, that doesn't... But... Oh, dang it. I just fell off a thing. Drew Baca says, I like Doc as Garrick. DJ Frogtime says, everyone would want to play Kira. Yeah, you're probably right. Like, if Cleo wouldn't make such a fantastic Dax, she would also make a fantastic Kira. Where would Mumbo be in Deep Space Nine? I'm not sure. So if Grian is Gul Dukat, I think Mumbo as... who's the guy that ends up working with Garrick on the Cardassian side of the rebellion later? Damar? Maybe if you have Grian as Dukat, you have Mumbo as Damar. Who would you have play Kai Wynn? Honestly, who would annoy Etho the most? If Etho is Cisco, I think Pearl or Stress could be a strong Kai Wynn. Because Etho is really inflappable, so you need somebody who really knows how to get under somebody's skin. Wait, really? But it was mandatory. Okay, let's get some more of this out here. Okay. Who would be Vic Fontaine? Ooh. I think Rendog would be an amazing Vic Fontaine. Bergwalk says, how do I find all the Dracula streams in one place? There's not really one place for them. They're just kind of in VODs. The thing about this is it's really informal. I'm not like recording an audiobook here. Vic Fontaine is the hologram singer in Deep Space Nine. Tango could also be Vic, according to Kindless. Well, the thing is, we do them every Saturday night, Bergwalk, so... Sammy says maybe you could record an audiobook. That's one of those things that is, like, a lot of commitment and not sure it would have a good return on investment. Well, here's the other thing is... no. Well, I don't want to seem dismissive, because it's a good idea. It's objectively a good idea, and part of the reason that I'm doing these streams is to practice for that later. But for me right now, I'm looking at that later as like a long time from now. So I don't want people to get excited that I'm planning on doing that anytime soon. So I'm trying to set reasonable expectations. Your idea is not bad. I just, I'm not practiced enough yet to pull it off. Miss Canuck says, Ren would make a great Vic Fontaine. Thank you. Dottie says, Ren or Iskall for Vic. Iskall does love to sing. Would Jem be a good Vic Fontaine? Maybe. I really like Jem as Esri and Cleo as Jadzia, though. Wells Knight can sing. Oh, that's true. Andy's a good listener. Yeah, maybe you put Wells Knight in there. Yeah, we're still on Deep Space Nine. I think we're winding down on that, though. So last call for Deep Space Nine suggestions. Then we'll move on. Okay, doesn't look like anybody else has anything. So before we move on, just to give everybody another 10 seconds to jump in if they want, whoops, nope, that's the wrong chat. Dang it, sorry. Sorry, chat. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. Remove, embed, and delete message. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So, next up, Star Trek Voyager. Voyager sure has a lot of characters. I feel like the Voyager characters are kind of more cartoonish in a lot of ways than some of the other series. More larger than life. Quiet Devious says Ren as the Doctor. Yeah, the Doctor, the holographic Doctor from Voyager is one of the most recognizable and memorable characters. Dottie Matrix writes Corrales for Neelix. Neelix is this alien that like claims to know a bunch of stuff, and then they immediately leave the area where he knows a bunch of stuff, and then he's like, but I can also cook, and then he cooks. Impulse as Harry Kim. False as 7 of 9. I feel like Cleo could also pull off being 7 of 9. Very aggressive. Gemini Tay playing Kess would make sense according to Miss Canuck, and I think that you're right. Who would play Tom Paris, the guy who likes old sci-fi stuff and flying? Hey, welcome, Raiders. We're talking about Star Trek and HermitCraft. If you don't know anything about HermitCraft, good news. I'm playing on the HermitCraft server right now. If you don't know anything about Star Trek, bad news. We're on Voyager. So, Tango Tech as Paris is an interesting choice. Ren might also make an interesting Paris because he's always like the way he's like obsessed with Star Wars and stuff. Drubaka says Cub as Tom Paris. That's an interesting choice. Mumbo as Tuvok suggests imaginary Theta Sigma with Grian as Kim. I feel like... Yeah, so Tuvok is the Vulcan security officer, so very logical. He's a lot older than... So, like, one of the things about Spock is that Spock is relatively young in the original series and Strange New Worlds, whereas Tuvok is, like, definitely intended to be, like, an older Vulcan at the time he's serving on the Voyager. We've also discussed that Scar would probably be a great Q. Cleo is Balana Torres. Cleo is Janeway. Pearl is 7 of 9 because she's so deadly. Stress is Janeway. So Tuvok and Neelix have to play off each other. So if you have Corrales as Neelix, who's the best straight man to Corrales' antics? So the bizarre thing is 90% of the time that I'm around Corrales, or that Cub is around Corrales, Corrales is the straight man. We're the ones that are doing all the wacky stuff, putting things in his attic and having dance parties. And so I would almost say you put Corrales in as Tuvok and then have me or Cub as Neelix. Somebody's saying Vintage Beef would be a good Neelix. Is Suma or XP crafted as Neelix or as Tuvok? Bum bum bum. Yeah, we're running low on chops here. I'm not sure which Voyager... So, like... With Voyager, I don't have, like, a clear favorite that I would want to play. Somebody says, I know nothing about Star Trek, but Doctor Who is something I know about. That's a separate conversation. We could save that for another day. It's a conversation worth having, though. So, who do y'all think you would enjoy seeing me play from Voyager if I was going to play one of the characters from Voyager? Yeah, Chakotay hasn't come up yet. I don't think I would be a good Chakotay. Incredimike suggests that I would be a good Tom Paris. I think I could pull that off in the, like, I like old sci-fi stuff. He likes analog controls. Like, for things, I hate when stuff's a touchscreen that doesn't need to be a touchscreen. Imaginary says, I think you'd make an interesting Tuvok. I think that the older I get, the better I'd be at playing Tuvok. The biggest thing I lack is the experience of age. Like, that's the big slant on Tuvok versus the other Vulcans in the show, is T'Pol and Spock are both relatively young, and Tuvok is relatively old for a Vulcan. Like, they age way differently than humans, but, Joe Arrow says you'd be a good EMH. I think playing the EMH would be very fun. He's indignant a lot. Like, he's upset and annoyed that he's not treated with respect. That could be very fun. Ben Pesh, throw it out there. Let's see. Yeah, Spock is also half human. That's true as well. Skylight Flower says, as long as you played someone funny, I'd watch because you're really funny. Or play someone that's really cool. Miss Canuck says that I should play Tuvix. Oh no. Please state the nature of your medical emergency. Lieutenant Paris, haven't I told you that if you're going to go hang gliding, you need to ensure that the safety protocols in the holodeck are engaged properly? Ben Pesh suggests Zed as Troy. That's an interesting one. Rosalia Moon says, my mom heard your comment about Tuvok and she's a diehard Star Trek fan. I don't think I said anything too embarrassing. No, I was just saying that, like, Tuvok is intended to be wiser than... So, like, a lot of the Vulcans just haven't lived as full of lives as Tuvok has. Like, Tuvok has lived a really interesting and long life. So... Yeah, Doc M77 could definitely play a good holographic doctor. Spock isn't that old in the original series. He's very old in the Next Generation. But, like, oh no. Oh no. I think Stress would be the best Loaxana Troy. Because Troy's mother... oh wait, is it Loaxana Troy's mother? Yeah, because Deanna Troy is the one who's on the crew. And then her mother, Loaxana Troy, was played by Majel Barrett. Would be... I feel like Stress in that role would be hilarious. Because, like, that's the thing, is, like, in Next Generation, there's not a lot of characters that are quite that aggressive. And so when those characters show up, it's a disruption. And Stress thrives in disruption. Skylight Flower says this is literally one of the most calm Twitch chats I've been in. I like it. I'm glad. Yeah, we're just palling around, play some blocks, and talks about Star Trek. Oh my gosh. Are we here? Oh my gosh, we're here. We're almost done with the 4 walls. Finally, this is... Like, we still have to put in, like, a bunch of studs in the bottom there. But, like, y'all, this has been so much fun just hanging out and talking about Star Trek and reading Dracula tonight. Like, some people do this while they're just like, I'm just gonna listen to podcasts, or I'll just put on Stargate again. But... honestly, this is a lot more fun and social for me. I'm a social person. If Jevin was Janeway, you would cast... Or, sorry, if Cleo was Janeway, you should cast Jevin as Q. That's not a bad suggestion. Hey, welcome, Mr. Hardluck. Glad you could join us. Do-do-do, do-do-do-do. Okay, so I actually went one block too far down here, so we're gonna go hit that with an axe real quick. Incredimike says Joe should be Q. I think that would be fun. I think I would have a lot of fun playing Q. I think... Okay, so then the question is, like... So we talked about, like, a bunch of different people that could play Picard, right? But if I was playing Q, if you started with that premise, that you cast me as Q, who do you cast as Picard at that point? Because I feel like Cleo isn't the obvious choice for Picard in general, but Cleo and I could play Q and Picard together, I think, well. But, I don't know. I don't know that that's the only choice. Who else besides Cleo would be a good Picard if I was Q? Cub suggests Dottie Matrix. That was actually one of the people I was thinking of. I was thinking, like, I don't do a lot of stuff where I'm bothering the other hermits aggressively, because it usually blows up in my face. But I think Cub would be a good one. Winter says, if Scar was Q, I could work as Picard. I think you're right. I think Scar and I definitely work well when Scar's bothering me. And Scar bothers me a lot. Devin Crotty says, I just accidentally crafted 17 crafting tables. Okay, I'm at the point in the evening where I've been looking at screens for so long. I misread that. Like, my brain is just like, all pronouns are equally replaceable with each other. And so when Devin Crotty says, I just accidentally crafted 17 crafting tables, I read that as, you just accidentally crafted 17 crafting tables. And I'm like, I was just looking at all these planks. Dang it, I would not be surprised if I just accidentally crafted 17. I'm like, how did I even do that? I'm so tired. Okay. Let's see. Let's go ahead. Eat this pork chop. Oh, good pork chop, everybody. Good pork chop. Okay. I want to give this a good fly around. Got to get a sense of how it looks, right? Dang it. Okay, we're gonna change. We're gonna fix the controls though. Now that we're done with the placement. No, that's video settings. Auto jump, mouse settings, keybinds. Yeah, that's the one. I think False could be a good Borg Queen. The Borg Queen was one of the best parts of Picard Season 2. I'm glad that they actually gave her something to do. Okay, so now we have... What we don't have in is the studs. Once we add the actual, like, studs in here and get the floor working, this is going to look so much better. This is way ahead of where I thought I would be with this. Okay. The Big Evan. So we're building a custom table that I'm designing. The theme is going to be space observatories. But the actual... cabinet here is based off me measuring total nuclear annihilation, because that's the one. It's one of the shorter modern pinball machines, so I could have it hit world height at its top there. So like most pinball machines are a few inches taller than this one, so I picked this one so I wouldn't have to plunge the front and sides of the machine deeper into the water, right? Yeah. Okay, so we've been going for how long now? Almost 4 hours. Okay, 3.5, almost 4 hours. I'm going to do a last call for tips. Big Evan says, will you design all the electrical work on the inside? Yeah, that's the idea. This is like a year-long project. So one of the reasons that this looks really blank right now on the inside is because we're going to mount the hardware and stuff where it actually needs to go. This is like a giant scale replica or model of a pinball machine. So we don't have the studs in the proper places for the reinforcements. We don't have the brackets and the hardware. Yeah, so this is a huge long-term project. But HermitCraft is big on megabases. So I was just like, if I'm going to build a megabase, I might as well learn something in the process, you know? Because you could always do something interesting like, oh, this is a cool geography thing, or this is a fantasy castle, or whatever. But I feel like I learn more from trying to understand how people who build real things build their real things. And then when I want to build something imaginary later, it helps me, you know? So, okay. Quiet Devious says, are you going to make it so it's playable if you play it in real life? That is the core concept, is I'm trying to design this in such a way that if I actually wanted to build it later, I would be starting from a place of strength, not weakness. I'm not going to do anything in here that would intrinsically be impossible to do. Thank you very much to Chloe the Great and Powerful for the 14, who says, love the Star Trek talk tonight. Thank you, Chloe. That puts us 2 past our next face camera expansion milestone. And at the most obnoxious face camera size, the Tony Stark helmet cam. Here we go. Expand. Joe. Do. Lowering the Joe Pasty now to 60%. Whew, this has been a lot of fun, y'all. I am really happy with the progress that we've made here. So the actual amount of usable footage I've gotten out of this is relatively small. But I'm going to be filming something, hopefully, with some of the other hermits. Scheduling collabs is always it's always a process. If you ask somebody like, oh, what's the worst part of D&D? Trying to schedule D&D. What's the worst part of HermitCraft? Trying to schedule HermitCraft. But yeah, there was something I was hoping to record today that didn't get done with other folks. But one of my goals, though, was I wanted to lead into that by having this already finished. So I was kind of disappointed I wasn't finished with this last night before that thing got moved. Now that the thing got moved, I'm like, okay, I'm all set up. So for the next thing, we're in good shape here. This is a lot of blocks. This is a lot of blocks. We've done so well here. Okay. Let's see who is streaming at the moment. Okay. So normally I try to raid whoever I'm going to watch next. And what I'm actually going to be watching while I clean up for the night is Fox City's Pinball. I try not to raid the same people twice in one day or even twice in 1 week. But, like, I'm looking at everything else live right now. And that's legitimately where I'm going to be hanging out for my after party. I got to go fold laundry and do dishes. But yeah, so we're going to raid them, but we're not going to do the big raid message. Just when you get there, say hello, you know, in your own words. We're not going to do a big fancy spam festival. But, you know, please do when you arrive, say, you know, greet everybody and you know, be cool about it, though. Because they're in the middle of a serious pinball tournament. A lot of the people watching care deeply about it. So they'll be happy to see that you're actual humans saying hello. But they're not necessarily, but like, we're not going there to advertise my channel. We're going there because that's where I want to hang out. So, okay. I'm going to be hanging out there for a little while I do all my chores and clean up for the night. Until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring.